Chapter 1034. Two of the Kunlun devil cult's demon lords had fallen here. From their current state, Chu Xiu could guess how tragic the battle had been. Lu Jianghu examined the two corpses and said in a low voice, "Heartless demon lord died because his meridians were destroyed by a strong sword aura. If I'm not wrong, the one who did this should be the Sword Emperor Jianghu of the Sword Hut. He was a swordsman of the older generation in the pugilistic world. He was once the #1 swordsman in the world. However, sword sage Gu Qingsheng was born. She was unparalleled in the world with her sword. Gu Qingsheng once sparred with Jianghu. No one knew the result. After that, Jianghu went into seclusion and never appeared in the pugilistic world again. Everyone said that his heart of the sword was destroyed by Gu Qingsheng and he was too ashamed to use a sword again. From the looks of it now, this old man was obviously hiding his strength. Gu Qingsheng was the #1 swordsman in the world. However, he, the #2, might not be any worse than Gu Qingsheng. Demon Lord Tianhui had many injuries on his body. It was already impossible to count how many people had attacked him. Among the 4 demon lords, Demon Lord Tianhui was the weakest in terms of combat power. However, he had the most tricks. Back then, that group of people must have used up all of his tricks to injure him so badly that he was on the verge of death. Otherwise, with Demon Lord Tianhui's formation techniques, even a heaven and earth mysterious realm expert would not be able to break the formation outside, let alone a true fire spirit refinement realm warrior. Chu Xiu looked at the two corpses. Before they died, they still wanted to take out the bronze throne and sit on the throne, just like when the Kunlun devil cult was still around. Obviously, even though they knew that they were going to die, they still wanted to preserve the dignity of the Kunlun devil cult before they died. Right now, Wei Shuya and the others had a solemn look on their faces as well. Even though they were not the successors of these two demon lords, when they saw the two demon lords of the peak of their Kunlun demon cult fall here, their hearts were filled with a myriad of emotions. After a while, Chu Xiu asked, "Since the heartless demon venerable and the heaven-weeping demon venerable have fallen here, what do they intend to do now? Did they want to leave behind an inheritance or a trap? Where are those things?" Previously, Shadow had obtained quite a number of things from here, including the heartless demon venerable's Dharma idol, the triple destruction city arrow, and the sky demon palm. But now, there was nothing here, and when Ing left, she was chased by the black snake and severely injured. No matter how one looked at it, this place didn't seem like a place where the two of them left their inheritance on purpose. Lu Jianghu chuckled and said, "These two aren't good people. The things they left behind are both inheritances and traps. Before they died, they must have suspected that someone was chasing after them. That was why they set up countless traps outside the cave. They've also left the inheritance behind, but that's just a bait. There's bound to be endless dangers within." Mei Qinglian frowned and said, "Didn't the two demon venerables think about what if a junior of the same lineage of Devil Dao finds their inheritance?" Lu Jianghu said indifferently, "According to the two of them, even if a junior finds their inheritance, if he can't decipher these mechanisms, then he's trash. What qualifications does a trash have to inherit the inheritance of the two demon venerables?" Mei Qinglian was instantly speechless. Although it sounded quite reasonable, why did she feel that something was wrong? Lu Jianghu pointed at the bronze throne and said, "These 4 thrones are actually made of ordinary bronze, but there are some arrays inscribed on it, so it's warm in winter and cool in summer, and it's quite comfortable to sit on. Back then, I wanted to ask the sect leader for one, but the sect leader was stingy and didn't give it to me. The 4 of them treasured this throne very much, and I can guarantee that the inheritance they left behind is under this throne. But you'd better be careful. Who knows what they left behind in here?" Chu Xiu and the others looked at each other and moved the bodies of the two demon venerables to the side. Then, they controlled their vital qi and slowly pushed the 2 thrones away. In an instant, the array below the thrones shone brightly, and a pungent stench wafted over. Lu Jianghu's expression suddenly changed, and he roared, "It's the heaven-devouring worm. Why did that old fart, Skycry demon venerables, leave these things behind? Shouldn't they have been destroyed? As soon as Lu Jianghe's voice fell, strange little insects jumped out of the array formation's radiance. These worms were only the size of a thumb, and they looked very evil. Their bodies were like worms, but their mouths occupied 1/3 of their bodies. Lu Jiang, he said quickly, these things are the heaven-devouring worms. I don't know where the Skycry demon venerables dug them out from, but they can devour everything, be it weapons, pills, human flesh, or even mental strength. Moreover, the evil nature of these things is still there. As long as they wake up, even if it's the essence of heaven and earth, they can devour and digest it all. It can be said that as long as there are enough of them, and as long as you don't kill them all in an instant, they can devour you until nothing is left. Back then, the sect leaders said that these things came from some yellow spring sky, and they are formed from the evil energy of heaven and earth. In any case, they are very mysterious, and they harm the harmony of heaven and earth. It's best that they don't appear in the world. I thought that the Skycry demon venerables had already gotten rid of them. I didn't expect them to still be around. As he said this, Lu Jianghe's eyes flickered with fear. Clearly, he had suffered at the hands of these little things before. Just as he was about to discuss with Chu Xiu on how to deal with these things, he saw the Mahakala devil god Dharma idol appear behind Chu Xiu. In the third eye on his forehead, scorching world annihilation flames bloomed, engulfing and burning the swarms of heaven-devouring worms. The heaven-devouring worms didn't have any power, but they could devour all kinds of power. An ordinary person could kill a bunch of them with a stomp, but as long as one got close to you, it could devour it. As for Chu Xiu's world annihilation flames, it was a manifestation of the evolution of the power of life and death between heaven and earth. There was no way to extinguish the world annihilation flames, and it could only be resisted with an equal amount of power. Therefore, even if the heaven-devouring worms devoured the world annihilation flames, they were still very weak. Before they could be completely digested, they were devoured by the world annihilation flames. The heaven-devouring worms, which were described as extremely dangerous by Lu Jianghe, were dealt with by Chu Xiu in one move just like that. Lu Jianghe was instantly dumbfounded. That's it? Chu Xiu nodded and said, what else do you want? All life and death in this world is in the cycle of reincarnation. There's nothing that can't be solved. As he said that, Chu Xiu and the others walked to the bottom of the throne. There were a few secret boxes inside, and from the looks of it, they were made of very extraordinary materials. This operation was already considered very smooth for Chu Xiu. At the very least, there weren't any problems. This was not easy for Chu Xiu. After all, he wasn't Lu Fengxian. He didn't have such good luck, and it wasn't easy for him to get the things he wanted. After opening the few secret boxes, Chu Xiu and the others checked the things inside. One of the secret boxes contained a lot of ancient books. After opening it, there were a lot of ancient books about alchemy, refining, divination, and other things. Of course, these things weren't of much use to Chu Xiu. These should have been left behind by the heaven-weeping demon venerable. For martial artists who were proficient in this field, it could be said to be a treasure. For example, Master Yuan Ji and Feng Buping. In terms of refining, Chu Xiu could even give it to Master Mo Yezi. The second secret box contained a lot of demonic techniques, which were also left behind by the heaven-weeping demon venerable. However, the demonic techniques left behind by the heaven-weeping demon venerable were too complicated. Moreover, they were inclined to those unorthodox methods, so their power wasn't very strong. Chu Xiu didn't intend to cultivate them, so he threw them to Wei Shuya and let him distribute them to the martial artists of the hidden devil lineage to cultivate. In this great war between the righteous and demonic factions, the martial artists of the hidden devil lineage had contributed a lot. Many of them fought to the death. Moreover, the phaseless demon sect was also firmly on his side. No matter what, he had to give them some benefits. Otherwise, who would work for him next time. When Chu Xiu opened the third secret box, there was only a jade slip inside. After checking the contents of the jade slip, Lu Jianghu said, "This is the cultivation method of the Heartless Demon Venerable, Heaven Heart Immortal Secret. It's the strongest demonic technique in the heaven and earth profound realm. Are you interested in cultivating it? Even if you are interested, it won't be of much use. You already have the invincible demon pill." Chu Xiu also took a look at the Heaven Heart Immortal Secret. Its main feature was that it could forcibly swallow the opponent's power during the battle. Regardless of whether it was digested or not, when one was seriously injured, one could use this power to repair oneself. There were even more extreme ones. If one didn't have any power, then the power of qi and blood, the heaven and earth yuan qi could be forcibly swallowed to repair oneself. However, some of the side effects were that these kinds of power would accumulate in the body. It would take extra time to decompose, otherwise it might affect one's battle strength. What Chu Xiu condensed was Dugu Weiwei's invincible demon pill. It was an existence that controlled the life and death of the world. It was even stronger than the Heaven Heart Immortal Secret. Therefore, this thing was really useless to Chu Xiu. However, Chu Xiu still put it away. He planned to wait until he returned and give it to Lu Fengxian. Lu Fengxian was currently mainly cultivating the Nine Heavens Devil Golden Body. At this time, if she cultivated it together with the Heaven Heart Immortal Secret, her defensive power would definitely rise to another level. The fourth secret box was a little big. It was 3 feet tall. After opening it, there was actually a strange statue inside. That statue was an extremely strange existence. It looked like a Buddha but not a Buddha. There was a Buddha crown on its head, but its face was ferocious. It had 4 arms and its upper body was bare. However, it was covered in demonic patterns. Looking at its style, it was somewhat similar to the style of the Mahakala heavenly demon cult. However, there were also some differences. Chu Xiu examined it. This statue was actually a statue. Other than the strange demonic patterns on it, the entire body was actually carved out of stone. Although Chu Xiu didn't recognize those demonic patterns, he didn't know why he felt that they were very familiar. Chapter 1035. Although the stone statue was a stone statue, it was definitely not an ordinary stone statue. Otherwise, the Heartless Demon Venerable wouldn't have placed it here as his most important inheritance. Lu Jianghu looked at the stone statue and thought for a while before saying, "I seem to have seen this thing before. This thing seems to have been excavated from some ancient ruins by the Heartless Demon Venerable." He thought that the thing on it was a cultivation technique, so he showed it to the leader. However, the leader seemed to have said that the thing on it was a cultivation technique, but not a cultivation technique. To be more precise, it should be called a divine ability. Divine ability? Lu Jianghu nodded and said, "That's it." The leader seemed to have said that divine ability is not a cultivation technique, it can't be practiced. If you know it, then you know it. If you don't know it, then you don't know it. Anyway, he said a lot of words that made my head hurt. The Heartless Demon Venerable kept nodding as if he understood, but I dare say that he definitely didn't understand. If he understood, he wouldn't have continued to leave this thing here. Chu Xiu didn't understand what was going on with the stone statue, so after taking a look, he took it away and prepared to study it slowly. When Chu Xiu opened the last box, Lu Jianghu's eyes instantly turned red. He almost resisted his greed to the greatest extent, which was why he didn't pounce over. Of course, one of the reasons was because he was afraid of Chu Xiu. The moment the box was opened, a wave of extremely pure devil qi was released. It couldn't even be said to be demonic qi, it was simply like a flowing liquid. Such a state of demonic qi was simply unheard of. When the box was completely opened, the original appearance of the thing was revealed. It was actually a medicinal pill. To be precise, the medicinal pill was so exquisite that it didn't look like a medicinal pill. The entire medicinal pill was only the size of a thumb, but it was filled with exquisite golden patterns, as if it was naturally formed, but also as if it was meticulously carved. After a while, Chu Xiu slowly opened his mouth and asked, "What is this?" Lu Jianghe's face revealed an expression that looked like he was crying and laughing at the same time. "If I said that this is just an ordinary blood recovery pill, would you believe me?" Without waiting for Chu Xiu to reply, Lu Jianghe said with some resentment, "If it weren't for the fact that I can't beat you, I would have definitely robbed you." "What is this?" This was the legendary elixir. A supreme god pill that surpassed the 9 revolutions realm. Back when our holy sect was at its peak, that old fellow Heaven Cry Demon Lord suddenly had a strange idea. He wanted to refine a divine pill that surpassed all other pills in the world. For this, he plundered 80% of the good materials in the Jianghu at that time, causing the entire Jianghu to be furious. If it wasn't for the fact that our holy sect was at its peak, that old fellow would have been torn apart alive. At that time, no one knew what the sect master was thinking. He actually agreed to the Skycry Demon Sovereign's nonsense. I don't know what happened after that, and there's never been any news about the birth of a supreme god pill in Jianghu. I've always thought that the Skycry Demon Lord's sudden idea had already failed. But now, it seems that his sudden idea has come true. This time, even Chu Xiu had a look of astonishment on his face, not to mention everyone else. The 4 demon sovereigns of the Kunlun devil cult in the past were indeed not easy to deal with. They were all geniuses. The other party actually had a bold idea like the supreme god pill, and he even dared to put it into practice. Of course, this was also during that era, when the Kunlun devil cult was still at its peak. Whatever precious materials the Skycry Demon Lord wanted, he could get them. Now, it was probably impossible to refine it successfully. Then what's the use of this supreme god pill? Chu Xiu asked. I don't know. You don't know? Lu Jianghe said helplessly, I really don't know. Back then, when the Skycry Demon Lord refined this item, it was just an idea. There were all sorts of possibilities, but without a finished product, how would he know the effect? It's just like a blacksmith master. Before a weapon completely becomes a divine weapon, how many people can guarantee how sharp their weapon will be? This supreme god pill works the same way. If you don't eat it, who knows what effect it will have? However, according to the Skycry Demon Lord's calculations, this item should be able to extend one's lifespan, increase one's cultivation base, and strengthen one's mental strength. Anyway, it's a supreme god pill. Think positively, it's definitely not wrong. It might even be able to let someone step into the heaven and earth elemental realm. Hearing this, everyone's breathing became heavy. The heaven and earth elemental realm was a legendary supreme realm. If they had another heaven and earth elemental realm expert on their side in this war, they wouldn't have to fight so hard. Such an elixir could create a heaven and earth elemental realm expert. This was simply something they didn't dare to imagine. Moreover, no one wanted to fight with Chu Xiu for this elixir. Chu Wuji didn't have such intentions from the beginning. Back at Guangzhong City, when he was besieged by Mako Mori and the others, he vomited blood. In the end, Chu Xiu took action and beat 3 people until they vomited blood and fled. This difference was enough for Chu Wuji to recognize reality. It was the same for Mei Qinglian. She had just stepped into the true fire spiritual cultivation realm a few days ago, so she naturally wouldn't have any improper thoughts about the heaven and earth elemental realm. Moreover, she was Chu Xiu's person, so she naturally wouldn't fight with Chu Xiu. As for Wei Shuya, Old Man Wei had always regarded Chu Xiu as his successor. Not to mention fighting for the elixir, if anyone dared to fight with Chu Xiu for the elixir, he would even fight them to the death. Among the people present, only Lu Jianghe really had such thoughts. If it wasn't for the fact that this supreme god elixir was too eye-catching and he couldn't make up a lie to fool Chu Xiu, he would really dare to say that this was just a blood recovery elixir and that it was only placed here because the heavenly weeping demon lord had made a mistake before he died. Even as he said just now, if it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't beat Chu Xiu, he was afraid that he would have snatched it. But now that he couldn't beat him, he could only admit defeat and not have any thoughts that he shouldn't have. Lu Jiang, he said sourly, kid, this is a supreme god elixir. You can be said to be the only person in the world who has tasted it. Even the sect leader doesn't have such treatment. When you swallow it later, don't be in a hurry to swallow it. Taste it first and tell me what it tastes like, so that I can feel better. Chu Xiu held the supreme god elixir in his hand and felt the energy within it. After a long while, Chu Xiu suddenly handed the supreme true elixir to Wei Shuya and said, Old Wei, take this elixir and refine it. Everyone, including Wei Shuya, was dumbfounded when they heard this. All along, Chu Xiu wasn't considered a magnanimous person in their hearts. Of course, he wasn't stingy either. As long as you stood on his side sincerely, Chu Xiu would definitely give you many surprises. But this was a supreme true elixir, not something else. How could such a supreme treasure be taken out to give away a favor? Although Wei Shuya was touched, he still shook his head and said, Chu Xiu, kid, I appreciate your kindness. But I'm already so old, no divine elixir or immortal elixir can save me. If you swallow it and refine it, it'll be 100 times more effective than me. There's no need to be modest about this. As long as you can reach the peak, it'll be a great fortune for the demonic path. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, Old Wei, I'm not being modest, nor am I being polite. I don't need to be polite with you guys. If I swallow and refine this supreme god elixir, it really won't be as effective as you. Lu Jiang, he stared at him and said, Once you refine the supreme god elixir, you'll have a chance to step into the heaven and earth profound realm. How is it useless? Chu Xiu said indifferently, You said it yourself. No one knows what the effects of the supreme god elixir are. Even if it can help someone step into the heaven and earth profound realm, it's only a probability. It's not absolute. Of course, the most important thing is that I haven't reached the peak of the true fire spirit refinement realm yet. Give me some more time, and even if I don't step into the heaven and earth profound realm, I'll still have the same battle strength as someone in the heaven and earth profound realm. Do you guys believe me? Mei Qinglian and the others nodded subconsciously. They believed him on this point. Although cultivation level and battle strength were closely related, they were actually two different things. For someone like Chu Xiu, his battle strength obviously couldn't be linked to his cultivation level. It was the same regardless of his cultivation level. After a pause, Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, and there's one more thing. I don't want to step into the heaven and earth profound realm through external means. The further one goes on the path of martial arts, the less shortcuts there are. Even the path ahead is filled with difficulties and dangers. There's no chance for you to take a detour. Only by relying on one's own strength to break through the road ahead is one's true path. What I'm pursuing is the perfection of strength and the extreme of strength, not a simple cultivation level. At this moment, Chu Xiu looked at Old Wei and said, Old Wei, I trust your strength and comprehension. But forgive me for being blunt, the biggest obstacle that restricts you is your age. Because of your age, you're not fated to enter the heaven and earth profound realm in this lifetime. Wei Shuya nodded. Chu Xiu was right. At his age, he had long given up on the thought of taking another step forward. Chu Xiu pointed at the supreme god elixir and said, I don't know the effects of this thing for now, but a supreme god elixir should be able to increase one's lifespan. On a smaller scale, this thing can increase one's strength and lifespan, allowing Old Wei to continue guarding the hidden devil clan. On a larger scale, Old Wei, if you use the power of the supreme god elixir to step into the heaven and earth profound realm, you can also provide greater protection for the hidden devil clan. I'm wholeheartedly pursuing the perfection of martial arts, so taking this supreme god elixir would be a waste. So I'm not being modest, nor am I being polite. Considering the current situation of the hidden devil clan and the general situation of the entire Jianghu, Old Wei, it's most suitable for you to refine this supreme true elixir. Everyone present was silent. Not to mention whether they agreed or not, just the fact that Chu Xiu was able to maintain a clear mind in the face of this level of treasure and calculate all the benefits and causes so clearly was already very terrifying. Chapter 1036. Chu Xiu didn't want to give Wei Shuya the Supreme God Elixir on impulse, but he made a decision after careful calculation. In fact, Chu Xiu didn't reject the use of external force to step into the heaven and earth mysterious realm. He was a person who would do anything to achieve his goal. As long as he could enhance his strength, he could do anything. What Chu Xiu really rejected was the side effects of using external force to step into the heaven and earth mysterious realm. Generally, above the real pellet state, there were very few people who could step into a realm with external force. Recently, Chu Xiu had only seen one person, that was Huoxingzuan. Huoxingzuan's real fire spirit refinement realm cultivation was definitely not achieved by himself. At least most of the reasons were attributed to external forces. Even if Huoxingzuan's actual combat experience was frighteningly low, his strength was also frighteningly low. Chu Xiu had always been at the peak of the same rank. He didn't want to cause such side effects because of a momentary greed for power. Although the side effects of too fast progress could be made up for in the future, with that time, Chu Xiu could step into the heaven and earth mysterious realm by relying on his own strength. What was the use of elixir? Therefore, the Supreme God Elixir, which was a supreme treasure for others, was actually a little useless for Chu Xiu. Of course, Chu Xiu was probably the only one in the pugilistic world who felt that the Supreme God Pill was of little value. After all, no one else had the same confidence as Chu Xiu that he would definitely be able to step into the heaven and earth profound realm. Moreover, he was also very relieved that Chu Xiu gave the elixir to Old Wei. Over the years, Chu Xiu also saw everything that Old Wei had done. Old Wei wouldn't betray or give up on Chu Xiu. At present, Chu Xiu's side looked very strong at first glance. There was Shang Tianliang, the heaven and earth mysterious realm powerhouse, and more than a dozen real fire spirit refinement powerhouses. He even controlled the Yinma lineage, Martial Hall, Blue Dragon Society and other forces. At first glance, he was even stronger than moon-worshipping cult. He even faintly had the demeanor of the top demonic sect. But in fact, this strength was still not enough because Chu Xiu's opponent was the entire righteous faction. Moon-worshipping cult could only rely on Yi Xiaonan to support it. If he took out Shang Tianliang, even 10 of him wouldn't be Yi Xiaonan's opponent. In terms of other forces, Chu Xiu was not as good as the entire righteous faction. He wasn't even as good as Eastern Qi. At this time, if there was one more heaven and earth mysterious realm existence on Chu Xiu's side, it would also be a great help to his side. Seeing that Chu Xiu actually gave him such a supreme god elixir, Wei Shuya's hands also trembled slightly. At this time, Wei Shuya could only rejoice that he didn't choose the wrong person back then. People said that Chu Xiu was ruthless and cruel, but they didn't know that if you gave him a point today, he might return it 10 times in the future. Although Chu Xiu could become good friends with Lu Fengxian, in the eyes of most people, they were very similar in a certain aspect. It was just that Chu Xiu was like this to his own people, but against enemies, if someone stabbed him, he would dare to kill your entire family. Wei Shuya let out a long sigh and kept the supreme god elixir. He said in a deep voice, "Then I won't stand on ceremony. You youngsters have to think further than me. If I can take this opportunity to make a breakthrough, I will be able to do more for the Yinma clan in the future." Lu Jianghe's eyes were red as he watched. He had given away the supreme god elixir just like that. In his heart, Chu Xiu had always been narrow-minded and extremely stingy, but today he was too generous. However, although Lu Jianghe was jealous, he had to admit that Wei Shuya, this old man, had indeed not been easy. It was an indisputable fact that most people in the Devil Dao were selfish and indifferent. In other words, most people in the Devil Dao were more self-centered. Apart from the Kunlun Devil cult in the past, which was able to unify the entire Devil Dao, the other Devil Dao alliance was almost a pile of trouble, just like the current hidden Devil clan. In the end, Wuxia relied on his own strength and selflessly held on for so long. Even Lu Jiang he couldn't help but admire him. Especially when it came to Chu Xiu's attitude. One had to know that Chu Xiu was not someone who was easy to deal with at the beginning. He had caused a lot of trouble. If it was someone else, they might not have been able to bear it and would have thrown Chu Xiu out to keep the peace. However, Wuxia never had such a thought. He had always supported Chu Xiu behind his back. This kind of thing was not something an ordinary person could do. Today's cause, tomorrow's effect. Chu Xiu's previous superiors had all gone to the underworld to report, and only Wuxia had received a reward. This was not without reason. Hey, there's another thing in the secret box. Could it be that there's another divine elixir? Lu Jiang he suddenly discovered something at this time, and his heart was filled with excitement. If there was another divine elixir, wouldn't it be his turn? However, it was a pity that it was not a divine elixir, but something that Chu Xiu was very familiar with. It turned out to be a Supreme Heaven Key, and it was not an ordinary Supreme Heaven Key. It was exactly the same as the Supreme Heaven Key found in the primitive Devil Cave, and it even had demonic marks on it. Old Lu, do you know what this is? Lu Jiang he shook his head doubtfully and said, I don't know. This thing appeared in the primitive Devil Cave. Now it seems that this is not the first time this thing has been born. Don't forget, the sect leader entered the primitive Devil Cave once and took out Ting Chun Yu's knife embryo. This thing was also born in the primitive Devil Cave. Do you think it was also taken out by the sect leader, but he didn't know what it was, so he casually threw it to the heaven-weeping demon Venerable to study. After all, the heaven-weeping demon Venerable is good at studying these strange things. Chu Xiu nodded. This was really a possibility. Generally, if he encountered something he didn't understand, he would throw it to his subordinates, Grandmaster Yuan Ji or Feng Buping, to study it. Although he didn't know what this thing was for the time being, since this stone was born in the primitive Devil Cave and was taken away by Zhongxinxiu, it was obviously not an ordinary thing. It was always right to keep it first. Since the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable's things were already in Chu Xiu's hands, they were ready to leave. This time, Chu Xiu and the others went so smoothly, and most of the credit really went to the previous group of people. They spent a lot of effort and used their own lives to pave the way for Chu Xiu and the others. Lu Jiang he looked at the corpses of the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable and sighed, take the corpses of the two of them out and find a place to bury them. After all, they were the two great demon venerables of our holy religion in the past. Don't be too shabby. Previously in the Kunlun Devil cult, the relationship between the two sides was good or bad. 500 years had passed, and things were still the same, but people had changed. No matter what, they were old friends. Lu Jiang he also felt a little uncomfortable at this time. However, at this time, when Chu Xiu heard Lu Jiang he mention the corpses, he suddenly thought of something and froze. Seeing Chu Xiu's appearance, Lu Jiang he just had a question, but Chu Xiu suddenly said, Old Lu, these two demon venerables were forced to die here. They must be very unwilling, right? If I use their corpses to do something great for our holy religion, don't you think their souls in heaven will feel very gratified? Hearing Chu Xiu's words, everyone present turned to look at Chu Xiu. What do you want to do? From Chu Xiu's tone, he could tell that he was definitely planning something. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, I want to go back to West Kunlun, break the seal, and reignite the rootless sacred flame. Hearing Chu Xiu's words, everyone present was stunned. After a long while, Wuxia was the first to say excitedly, Chu Xiu. Are you crazy? Everyone in the hidden devil lineage had thought that there would be such a day. But do you know what this day represents? What you will face is the entire righteous Dao sect, and not just the righteous Dao sect. Even the Sword King city, which has always maintained a neutral position, will stand against you. Even the moon-worshipping cult may do the same. Don't be fooled by our previous happy cooperation. Who can guarantee the moon-worshipping cult's attitude on such an extremely sensitive matter? I can tell you that in this Jianghu, in this world, no one wants to see the Kunlun devil cult reappear. In fact, among the entire hidden devil clan, Wuxia most wanted the devil Dao sect to return to the glory of the Kunlun devil cult. However, reason told him that it was almost impossible. In the past, no matter how crazy Chu Xiu was, Wuxia would choose to support him. But this time, he couldn't because Chu Xiu's idea was too crazy. Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "Old Wei, I'm not crazy. It's just that I have to take this step sooner or later. I won 2 wars in a row. Of course, it can also be understood that I didn't lose either time. At this time, in the eyes of those righteous Dao sects, I'm afraid I'm a higher threat than Yi Xiaonan because I'm younger and more shameless." The corner of Lu Jianghe's mouth twitched. Chu Xiu had always been a person who knew his limits. His evaluation of himself was quite correct. Lu Jianghe didn't know whether this was a strength or a weakness. Chu Xiu continued, "So I can guarantee that when the next war comes, it won't be so easy for us to get through it. Over the years, our strength has been getting stronger and stronger, but the crisis we encounter each time is also getting bigger and bigger. I didn't want to go to the Kunlun mountain, but they forced me to come. Instead of passively waiting for death, it's better to make the first move. Old Wei, although I like to gamble, when have you seen me gamble blindly? If I didn't have a certain degree of certainty, how could I make such a decision?" After a long silence, Wuxia thought about it and said, "You don't make a move now because there will be danger in the future. If you go to West Kunlun now, you will anger the whole Jianghu. What do you have to bear it?" Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes, looked at the corpses of Heartless Demon Venerable and Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable, and said, "I'm not going to fight it head-on at all. Although these 2 Demon Venerables are dead, if their corpses are used well, they can help me divert a large part of the attention. For example, is it more important for me to go to West Kunlun or the appearance of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation?" Chapter 1037. Chu Xiu's words stunned Wuxia and the others. Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation? They didn't even know if their religion master was alive or dead, so how could there be any reincarnation? Wuxia suddenly reacted, looking at the corpses of Heavenly Weeping Demon Master and Heartless Demon Master. "You want to use the corpses of these 2 demon masters to set up a trap?" Chu Xiu nodded, "Exactly, but the details need to be perfected after we return. Everything here, including the black snake, must be moved away, even the damaged spirit arrays must not be left behind." Hearing that Chu Xiu had a general plan, Wuxia didn't try to persuade him anymore. It wouldn't be too late to wait until they returned. Therefore, everyone directly contributed their space boxes and other secret treasures, emptying the entire cave. At this time, on the stern of the ship, Old Song was happily holding a small wine pot and sipping it. If he could complete the task given to him by these people, after returning, his status would be even higher than when he was in the Blue Dragon fleet. Moreover, in his opinion, his task was already 80% complete. Now that he had found the place, going back shouldn't be a problem. At this moment, on the distant sea, a cultivator in white robes stepped on the water, or rather, it should be said that the waves took the initiative to wrap around his figure as he moved forward. Although Old Song's strength wasn't very high, he was also a person who had seen the world. In an instant, he judged that this person was definitely a powerhouse among powerhouses. This made his heart tighten. What was the relationship between this powerhouse and the people who had entered before? If they were to fight, wouldn't it be a disaster for the fish in the moat? Right at this moment, the expert actually dashed towards him, causing Old Song to shiver uncontrollably. However, the powerhouse just walked up to him and politely asked, "Excuse me, do you know?" At this point, the powerhouse suddenly turned his head, looked at the island, and said, "Oh, no need, I already know." As the powerhouse's voice fell, his figure disappeared in an instant, and the next moment, as if he had passed through space, he appeared on the island. Old Song was so scared that he sat down on the deck. Although the expert just now did not reveal any terrifying aura, Old Song could not help but feel a sense of reverence in his heart when faced with such a powerful existence. It was as if he was in awe of the entire world. At this moment, Chu Xiu and the others had just stored everything in the cave into the secret space box. Just as they were about to leave, they saw a figure in white standing in front of the cave, looking at them calmly. In an instant, Chu Xiu and the others were stunned. They never imagined that they would meet Zhong Xianxia here. The person who appeared in front of Chu Xiu was the carefree Sky Lord Zhong Xianxia, the #1 powerhouse in the world. But when Chu Xiu thought about it carefully, he felt that it was normal. The legendary Freedom Heaven was located in the East Sea, and this was also the territory of the East Sea. It seemed most normal for Zhong Xianxia to appear here. But what was strange was why would he appear in front of them? What did he want to do? Chu Xiu had once said that one shouldn't use their own thoughts to speculate about powerhouses that weren't on the same level as themselves, because that would be ridiculous. Now Chu Xiu was in this awkward situation. He simply could not guess why Zhong Xianxia would appear in front of them. The two sides looked at each other awkwardly for a few breaths of time. Then, Zhong Xianxia took out something that Chu Xiu was very familiar with. It was the Heaven Ascension key that he had obtained in the primitive demon cave. I want this. Chu Xiu didn't even hesitate. He took out the Heaven Connecting key with the magic runes and handed it to Zhong Xianxia. He didn't know what Zhong Xianxia wanted this thing for. He also didn't know how Zhong Xianxia knew that they had obtained this thing and even rushed over so quickly. He only knew that the gap in cultivation between him and Zhong Xianxia had reached an unimaginable degree. In the face of this absolute power and influence, any trick or scheme was a joke, and any scheme was also a joke. A wise man submits to circumstances. Sometimes, cowardice was the only solution. The more one struggled, the worse the result would be. Zhong Xianxia held the stone and nodded with satisfaction. Looking at Chu Xiu, he raised his hand, frowned, and put it down again. After thinking for a moment, he raised it again, but then put it down again. This scene left Chu Xiu and the others puzzled. What was the strongest powerhouse in the world trying to do? To the side, Lu Jianghu was so scared that his entire body trembled. This person, could it be that he was thinking of slapping Chu Xiu to death with 1 or 2 slaps? After a moment, Zhong Xianxia put down his hand and said in a soft voice, I owe you karma. Is there anything you want me to help you with? Chu Xiu was slightly startled. Wei Shuya and the others were also startled. They now knew that this strongest powerhouse in the world seemed to have some problems with his mind. If the karma he spoke of was referring to the supreme sky key with the demonic runes, then most people in Jianghu wouldn't care about it. To put it cruelly, treasures belonged to the strong. If you didn't have the strength, you couldn't protect your own things. An ordinary man was innocent, but treasuring a treasure was a crime. Even if you were robbed, you couldn't do anything about it. The only difference was that the tyrannical ones robbed you, but if you dared to resist, they would kill you. The more hypocritical ones would rob you with threats and rewards, and then give you some trivial things, and you would still be grateful for their kindness. But Zhong Xianxia was neither of these. If he said that he owed Chu Xiu karma, then it was karma. It wasn't hypocritical charity, but rather a fair transaction. Chu Xiu didn't know that Zhong Xianxia had a habit of asking for directions. If he knew, he would understand what Zhong Xianxia was thinking. This was a balance, a cycle of karma. You pointed the way for me and I gave you a good fortune. The price of pointing the way was insignificant to you. Giving you a so-called great fortune in the eyes of others was also insignificant to Zhong Xianxia. Of course, this sort of thing wasn't absolute. Last time in the primitive demon cave, Fang Qishao had been unlucky. He pointed the way for Zhong Xianxia, and Zhong Xianxia also wanted to give him a good fortune. But unfortunately, Fang Qishao's talent was already good enough. He didn't need Zhong Xianxia to give him another good fortune. And if she gave him too much, it would break the balance on his side. Thus, in the end, Fang Qishao didn't have the chance to touch his head. And this time, Chu Xiu was much luckier than Fang Qishao. He had obtained that thing first, so Zhong Xianxia only asked for it. If it was like the last time in the primitive demon cave, if this thing was an ownerless object, then Zhong Xianxia would have directly snatched it away. He didn't owe anyone karma. Moreover, the karma value of the supreme sky key with demonic runes couldn't be compared to pointing the way. Zhong Xianxia wanted to give Chu Xiu a great fortune, but he discovered that with Chu Xiu's current potential and strength, he had nothing left to give to Chu Xiu. The supreme sky key with demonic runes was related to a great deal of karma. If he couldn't give Chu Xiu a good fortune of equal value, then he could only let Chu Xiu state his own conditions. If anyone else said this, Chu Xiu would definitely have some doubts. But since Zhong Xianxia said this, Chu Xiu believed him. With Zhong Xianxia's strength, if he wanted to snatch it, then he would snatch it. Since he said that he could state a condition, then he would definitely give him an explanation. So Chu Xiu cautiously asked, "Can I state any condition?" Zhong Xianxia said calmly, "As long as I can do it, I can." Chu Xiu frowned slightly. The crux of the problem was, what could she do and what couldn't she do? "Help me kill someone, can you?" Zhong Xianxia nodded and said, "Sure, kill who?" Heaven Gate Sect Master, Jun Wuxian. In the primitive demon cave, Chu Xiu had killed a Heaven Gate divine general. Although Jun Wuxian had been forced away by Zhong Xianxia in the end, the enmity had already been formed. If he could resolve it now, that would be for the best. Otherwise, what awaited Chu Xiu in the future would be a very terrifying enemy. But when Chu Xiu said this, even Lu Jianghu and the others were shocked. To ask the current number 1 in the world to kill the number 2 in the world, Chu Xiu really dared to say this. Zhong Xianxia shook her head and said, "You can't kill him. Jun Wuxian is the gatekeeper. If you kill him, there will be no one to guard the gate. It will be very troublesome and will affect karma." Chu Xiu was slightly taken aback. He asked doubtfully, "What do you mean by gatekeeper?" "He's the one guarding the door." Chu Xiu was slightly speechless. But it was clear that if Zhong Xianxia didn't want to say it, no one else could ask. And Chu Xiu wasn't so bored as to use such a precious opportunity to find out more about the Heaven Gate. "Then let's change it. Abbot of the Great Light Temple, Su Ci." Zhong Xianxia shook her head and said, "Su Ci has Buddhist karma. Killing him will affect karma. So you're saying that Rama of the Subhuti Monastery can't do it? What about Ling Yunzi of the Chunyang Dao sect?" Zhong Xianxia continued to shake her head. "Ling Yunzi has Taoist karma. He can't do it either." Chu Xiu was silent. It seemed that all the important figures in the pugilistic world were burdened with karma. He couldn't kill any of them. But other than these few people who had great enmity with him, Chu Xiu could kill the others himself. He didn't need Zhong Xianxia to help him kill them. At this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly thought of something and said, "Then can you keep this opportunity and bring it up when I need it?" Zhong Xianxia paused and said, "Sure." After saying this, Zhong Xianxia waved her hand and a mark seeped into Chu Xiu's mind. "Activate the mark in your psyche and I will be able to sense it." After saying this, Zhong Xianxia took a step forward. Her figure was already above the surface of the sea. As the waves surged, she disappeared, leaving Chu Xiu and the others looking at each other. They really couldn't understand the meaning of Zhong Xianxia's actions. Chu Xiu could guess what the other powerhouses were thinking, but Zhong Xianxia couldn't even guess it. Chapter 1038. Although Zhong Xianxia's sudden appearance did not disrupt Chu Xiu's plans, it still gave him a great shock. It was only now that Chu Xiu discovered that the strongest people standing at the peak of the world seemed to be wrapped in layers of mysteries. Previously, Chu Xiu had suspected that the name of Heaven's Gate was just a literal meaning. It was really a gate. And now Zhong Shenxiu's words indirectly confirmed this point. Heaven's Gate's Jun Wuxian was a gatekeeper. Compared to Jun Wuxian, Zhong Shenxiu himself was even more mysterious. In all these years, he had only appeared in front of the people of Jianghu a few times. It could even be said that he was a person with no future. Even the information on Zhong Shenxiu from wind-sweeping building could not fill up a piece of paper. It was said that the East Sea was the sky of freedom. There were many martial artists in the East Sea, but whether it was the wind-splitting sea or the clear wind sea, no one knew where the sky of freedom was. Old Lu, when the sect leader was here, did he have any dealings with the people of the sky of freedom? Lu Jianghu scratched his head and said, I don't know, but whenever the sect leader made a move, he was either dead or crippled. Now that the sky of freedom has a descendant like Zhong Shenxiu, there shouldn't be any conflicts. As for the matter of the sky of freedom, Chu Xiu did not dwell too much on it. After all, the East Sea was not their territory. It was better to return to the northern Yen to discuss these messy matters. After returning to Supreme Island, Chu Xiu returned Old Song to Pak Dong Lai. However, he made Mei Qinglian use the beauty technique to erase the memory of Zhong Shenxiu's appearance. This matter was a little sensitive to Chu Xiu. Old Song was an outsider, so it was best for him to be ignorant. After successfully sending off Chu Xiu and the others, Pak Dong Lai let out a sigh of relief. Killing gods of this level would be a great help when needed, but it was best to stay away from them during normal times. After returning to the Zhenwu Hall, Chu Xiu began to lay out his plan. However, because the matter was critical, only Wei Shuya and other core members of Chu Xiu's side participated. In fact, Chu Xiu's plan was very simple. It could be summed up in 4 words, luring the tiger away from the mountain. The news of Dugu Weiwei's life and death had always been a mystery in the pugilistic world. If Chu Xiu used the corpses of Heartless Demon Venerable and Heaven Weeping Demon Venerable to set up a trap and make people think that Dugu Weiwei was not dead but reincarnated, what would the pugilistic world look like? It was estimated that all the righteous martial arts world and all the forces except the Yinma lineage would track down the news of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation. At this time, if Chu Xiu returned to Kunlun Mountain, he would undoubtedly receive a lot less attention. After listening to Chu Xiu's general plan, Wei Shuya thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, this plan has a certain degree of feasibility, but there is only one key point. That is, how can we make 90% of the pugilistic world believe this? As long as there is a trace of loophole, the plan will definitely fail. Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, then do it without the slightest loophole. Right now, Chu Xiu's subordinates could be said to be filled with talented people. They could be found in all aspects. It wasn't too difficult to set up such a trap. However, Chu Xiu did not intend to put this trap in northern Yen, but in eastern Qi. This place could not be discovered by him first, but by the people of the righteous sects first. Therefore, Chu Xiu only brought a few people to sneak into the territory of eastern Qi, found a particularly remote barren mountain, and began to dig a cave. The appearance of the cave was almost based on the appearance of the cave in Donghai. Some of the formations along the way had been damaged. Chu Xiu brought Master Yuan Ji over and threw him the ancient book left by the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable. He asked him to follow the ancient book and carefully set up the formation along the way. The interior of the cave was arranged in the same way as the one in Donghai. Even the black snake was placed in the cave by Chu Xiu. This beast would be of great use in the future. After the corpses of the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable were placed in place, Chu Xiu said to Master Yuan Ji, Master Yuan Ji, you are good at divination. Can you create something and fill it with things like Dao connotation and karma? In short, the more obscure it looks, the better. Master Yuan Ji murmured, obscure? That's a good description. Sir, I can create something like this, but the problem is that I can't do it. With my abilities, if Su Jing from the Temple of Great Light or that Xiao Mo from the Sabodhi Monastery were to come, it would be very easy for them to see through me. Then there's no other way? Master Yuanji thought about it and said, there is. Sir, you can do it. Me? Master Yuanji nodded and said, Sir, your current abilities are almost at the peak of the true fire spiritual cultivation realm. Even if a powerhouse of the heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm comes, you'll be able to fight them. You're almost invincible among your peers. Among the heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm existences in the pugilistic world, as far as I know, no one is good at divination. As long as you do it, I guarantee that even if Su Jing and Xiao Mok come, they won't be able to see through it. Chu Xiu nodded and said, then what should I do? Sir, what do you want to make? Chu Xiu thought about it and said, make a stone slab, a very ordinary stone slab. Write these words on it, Heaven's mandate undefeatable, Demon Lord undying. Master Yuanji's hands suddenly trembled. For some reason, when he heard these words, he felt his heart palpitate. It was as if he had touched some kind of existence in the unseen world. He did not dare to think too much about it. He immediately found a green stone slab and started making it, sketching all sorts of formation patterns on it. After a while, all the formation patterns were integrated into the green stone slab. Master Yuanji said, Sir, you seem to be good at divination techniques from the Daoist lineage. You just need to circulate that secret technique at full power and channel its powers into this stone slab. Chu Xiu nodded and circulated the heaven's sun gazing at air skill at full power, channeling all his powers into it. As the green stone slab shone brightly, it eventually returned to calmness. Chu Xiu stuffed the green stone slab into the hands of the Heaven Weeping Demon Venerable, creating the illusion that the Heaven Weeping Demon Venerable had deduced these 8 words. Similarly, under the 2 thrones, Chu Xiu also dug a cave. He gritted his teeth and left many good things in it. There was even the Heartless Demon Venerable's inheritance, which was the original version, as well as various resources and treasures used by the demonic path. Without sacrificing the child, one would not be able to trap the wolf. This setup did not allow for any loopholes. After the setup was completed, Chu Xiu took out a piece of silk cloth and got Master Yuanji to use his techniques to make it old. He wrote a line of words and threw it to the bottom. Then, he brought everyone out of the cave completely and used the formation that the Heaven Weeping Demon Venerable had left behind to seal it. After leaving, Master Yuanji still could not react. When he thought about the setup in the cave, his body trembled. 80% of the things in the cave were set up by him. If these things were to appear in the world, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. After returning to the Suppression Martial Hall, Old Wei temporarily went into seclusion to refine the Supreme God Elixir. As for Chu Xiu, he was already prepared to completely trigger his setup. He had already set up everything. Now, he just had to wait for someone to discover it. However, the identity of the person who made the discovery was very important. Firstly, it could not be the people on Chu Xiu's side. Secondly, it had to be the people from the orthodox sections. Moreover, their strength could not be too strong. Otherwise, the ruins would be completely destroyed before Chu Xiu arrived. Then, his setup would be in vain. After thinking about it, Chu Xiu called Yi Xiao over and asked, recently, has there been any changes on the Longhu list? Has anyone from the demonic path been in the top 10 of the Longhu list? With Chu Xiu's current strength, he was already a big shot from the demonic path who could stir up the underworld. He could even obtain the position of a supreme martial artist with just a stretch of his hand. The reputation list indeed could not attract his attention. However, a junior martial artist like Yi Xiao was still paying attention to the reputation list. Yi Xiao said, there is one. Little Devil Star Du Zhongfang is currently ranked 5th on the Longhu list. Which sect is he from? Is it the Hidden Devil lineage or the Bright Devil lineage? Yi Xiao shook his head and said, neither. This person is a rogue cultivator from the demonic path. He is arrogant and unruly. He has offended many people in the underworld. He even destroyed the penis of a direct disciple of the Xiahou clan and humiliated the Xiahou clan in public. Even the Chunyang Dao sect and the real martial arts sect have suffered losses from him. Recently, he has been rather eye-catching among the younger generation in the underworld. Previously, there were people from the hidden devil lineage and the bright devil lineage who wanted to recruit him into their sections. However, they were all rejected by him. He claimed that he was used to being free and could not be restrained. This person is too high-profile and radical. He always makes unnecessary enemies. His personality is even more flamboyant. If such a person doesn't quickly find a backer, I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on for long. Hearing Yi Zhao's words, Chu Xiu nodded. This person is not bad. I'll choose him. However, there was no need for Chu Xiu to personally make arrangements for these matters. He was prepared to let the Blue Dragon Society do it. The Blue Dragon Society just happened to be in Eastern Qi. It was the perfect time to make a move. 3 months later, in a dark alley in Eastern Qi's Nanliang city, Du Zhongfang was surrounded by several martial artists. Du Zhongfang was dressed in black. On his back was a long saber, a long sword, and a short sword. There were also 2 long spears crossed on his back. At first glance, he looked like a weapon seller. However, his appearance was not bad. He had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. His appearance was masculine and handsome. However, his eyes revealed a sense of untamed arrogance. It seemed as if he would not submit to anyone he looked at. Du Zhongfang was ranked 5th on the Longhu leaderboard. He had the strength of the unity of heaven and man realm. However, the 7 or 8 people in front of him were all at the unity of heaven and man realm. Moreover, none of them were weak. They all held precious weapons in their hands. The long sword and short sword on his back had already cracked in the previous battle. Looking at the people in front of him and behind him, Du Zhongfang could not help but curse inwardly. He had been too careless. Previously, he did not sense anyone following him. He did not expect that these bastards from the Xiahou clan had already been lying in wait for him in Nanliang City. Chapter 1039. Du Zhongfang had previously destroyed the lifeblood of a direct descendant of the Xiahou clan in public, which was a great insult to the Xiahou clan. Xiahou, who had been slapped in the face, naturally would not let Du Zhongfang off so easily. The other party was just a casual demonic cultivator without any backing. The Xiahou clan had no scruples in dealing with him. Seeing the people of the Xiahou clan approaching him, Du Zhongfang clenched the 2 spears behind him and sneered, "Your Xiahou clan is really shameless. So many people besieged me. Last time that trash lost to me one-on-one, and you came to besiege me. Shameless. You want to be on the Dragon Tiger list with this kind of virtue? I think it's hard for your Xiahou clan's disciples to get on the Snake Cat list." The people of the Xiahou clan didn't waste time talking nonsense with him. They directly rushed up and began to kill Du Zhongfang, looking like they wanted to tear Du Zhongfang into pieces. Being able to step into the 5th place of the Dragon Tiger list, Du Zhongfang naturally had some strength. It could be said that few people of the same rank could match him. However, this generation's Dragon Tiger list was not the era of Chu Xiu's Dragon Tiger list. Almost everyone in the top 5 had the strength to fight against the real pellet state at the unity of man and nature realm. Being besieged by so many people, Du Zhongfang soon couldn't hold on. Even the spear in his hand was broken. Just when Du Zhongfang gritted his teeth and was about to burn his blood essence to fight for his life, a cold sword light appeared in the alley. In an instant, the martial artists of the Xiahou clan who besieged Du Zhongfang were stunned, then their heads fell to the ground. A sword light killed so many powerhouses in seconds. Du Zhongfang looked ahead in horror. On both sides of the alley, there was a person standing, both dressed in black, wearing a black iron hat and a black iron mask. The only difference was that one was smiling while the other was crying. Blue Dragon Society. Du Zhongfang instantly recognized the identity of the other party. After all, only the Blue Dragon Society always dressed like this in the entire underworld. "Kid, come with us," Song Shao said. 2 martial Dao masters of the Blue Dragon Society came to find him. Although Du Zhongfang didn't know why, it was definitely not a good thing. He was just about to say something when Song Shao interjected, "Kid, you don't have a choice right now. If I hadn't saved you just now, you would have died at the hands of those Xiahou bastards. Your life is ours now. If you're obedient, I'll return your life to you. If you're disobedient, I'll take your life away. You'll still be able to live a little longer, so it's worth it. So now, are you going to be obedient or not?" Song Zhao's tone carried a hint of a smile, but her words were chilling. Although Du Zhongfang was arrogant, he was not an idiot. In the face of such absolute power, he had no right to choose. "I choose to be obedient," Du Zhongfang answered obediently. Song Shao nodded. "Good. Don't worry, your life isn't worth much, and I can't be bothered to ask for it. You only need to do one thing for us." As she spoke, Song Shao took out a map and pointed at a place on it. "See this place? Remember it clearly, don't ever forget it. Don't you like to cause trouble? What I'll ask you to do is your specialty, causing trouble. Whether it's the Dao sects, the 9 great families, or other martial arts sects, you can provoke whoever you want. But remember, after you've provoked them, don't run around randomly like before. You just need to bring them to this place, understand?" Du Zhongfang hurriedly nodded his head, but his eyes were filled with doubt. This matter wasn't too difficult, but too simple. There was simply no difficulty. But because it was too simple, he had doubts in his heart. Just when Du Zhongfang wanted to ask something, Song Shao directly waved his hand and said, "Kid, you know what you should know, and even if you know what you shouldn't know, you have to pretend to be ignorant. Remember, don't ask, don't say, just do it, and you'll be able to save your life." Du Zhongfang originally wanted to ask, but he immediately swallowed his words and nodded hurriedly. In fact, even if Du Zhongfang asked about this matter, Song Shao also didn't know how to answer, because he also didn't know why. On this matter, Chu Xiu had been extremely secretive, and only a few people knew about it. Han Kuai and Song Shao only knew what they wanted to do, but they didn't know why. But this wasn't important. After being an assassin in the Blue Dragon Society for so many years, even the talkative Song Shao had learned to control his mouth and his own curiosity. Looking at Du Zhongfang's departing back, Song Shao couldn't help but shake his head and said, "This generation's Longhu leaderboard really isn't that good. It can't even be compared to official Chu's generation. This Du Zhongfang is ranked 5th on the Longhu leaderboard, but he can only be said to be talented, but his character is too flawed. Back when official Chu was on the Longhu leaderboard, he was already able to stir up the martial world." Han Kuai calmly said, "So in this world, there is only one official Chu." After that, the two immediately left. Their mission was that simple. For this kind of thing, the less people knew, the better. When Du Zhongfang left, he did have the thought of running away and ignoring Han Kuai and Song Zhao's mission. But no matter how he thought about it, he didn't dare to do so. Part of the reason why Du Zhongfang dared to offend those righteous martial artists was because he was originally from the diabolism, so it was normal for him to have conflicts with those righteous martial artists. Also, other than the time he offended the Xiahou clan, the other righteous martial artists didn't take him seriously. Those big sects also couldn't be bothered to haggle with a junior from the diabolism like him. But now, this was a mission given to him by the 2 grandmasters from the Blue Dragon Society. If he dared to run away, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Blue Dragon Society was everywhere in the martial world, and now, the Blue Dragon Society had a backer behind them. It was a powerful figure from the diabolism. Du Guangzhong couldn't afford to offend such an existence. So in the end, he could only grit his teeth and complete the mission given to him by Han Kuai and Song Shao. When it came to creating trouble and attracting hatred, Du Guangzhong was not bad at it. In less than a month, he had offended a few people from the righteous sects in eastern Qi. In the end, it even caused a few disciples from the righteous sects to join forces under the leadership of the Chunyang Dao sect's direct disciple, Zhang Fuliu, to hunt down Du Guangzhong. Zhang Fuliu was a Taoist priest, but he had nothing to do with the Zhang family of Longhu Mountain. Instead, he was one of the disciples that the Chunyang Dao sect accepted when they took over northern Yen. He came from a martial arts family. Although it was a small family, they did not mistreat Zhang Fuliu. His foundation was solid, and after joining the Chunyang Dao sect, he quickly made a name for himself. This was the first time he left the mountain, but he encountered Du Zhongfang and suffered some losses. Therefore, he relied on his reputation as the direct disciple of the Chunyang Dao sect to gather many people to find trouble with Du Zhongfang. However, Du Zhongfang was very slippery. They chased him for many days, all the way to the wilderness, but they still could not find him. Behind Zhang Fuliu, a young disciple of the true martial sect said, "Taoist brother Zhang, that guy runs very fast. After so many days, we have not been able to catch up with him. Why don't we just give up?" Zhang Fuliu snorted coldly and said, "No matter how fast he is only one person. If we join forces, we can exhaust him to death. It is a disgrace to let such a demonic scoundrel share the Longhu list with us. If we do not kill him, how can we live up to the teachings of our sect?" Of course, Zhang Fuliu also had a hidden meaning. If he did not kill Du Zhongfang, how could he be ranked in the top 10 of the Longhu list? At this moment, Zhang Fuliu suddenly felt something. He raised his head and said, "There is a faint devil qi in this wild forest. Could this be Du Zhongfang's lair?" The disciples that the Chunyang Dao sect recruited in the northern Yen were all very sensitive to the pure yang energy. Zhang Fuliu was naturally the same. He was sensitive to the pure yang energy, but even more so to the devil qi. The group followed the source of the devil qi and chased all the way to the front of a cave. Everyone looked at each other. Zhang Fuliu tried to slash out a pure yang sword qi. However, just as it reached the entrance of the cave, in an instant, the radiance of the formation Dao circulated and the devil qi soared for more than 10 miles. The strong pressure instantly scared Zhang Fuliu and the others to sit on the ground, their faces pale. What kind of place did they find? At this moment, Du Zhongfang was outside the wild forest. At this moment, he was still hesitating. Since he had lured everyone here, would he be able to leave? The next moment, he saw the scene of the devil qi piercing the 9 heavens. This made his expression change instantly. Du Zhongfang's expression changed a few times. Finally, he turned around and left. He was very curious, but when he saw this power, his curiosity was scared away. This was no longer something he could participate in. This power was enough to attract the attention of half of Eastern Qi. With the strength of Zhang Fuliu and others, they naturally couldn't open this cave, so they directly returned to the sect to report. However, during this period of time, there had been a lot of news. It was said that there was a powerful devil Dao inheritance in Eastern Qi. Some people said that it was the inheritance of the ancient devil Dao, and some people said that it was the inheritance of the Kunlun devil cult. Anyway, there were different opinions and it attracted countless martial artists. Some people went to explore first, but they were directly strangled by the formation. At least, those below the real pellet state were not even qualified to touch the formation. 7 days later, the powerhouses of Chunyang Dao sect, real martial arts cult, Xiahou clan, Shangshuaying clan, and even the Eastern Qi imperial court arrived to explore the movement inside. In front of the cave, the casual martial artists and the martial artists of those small sects who came to join in the fun had retreated to the side. Ling Yunzi and others stood in front of the cave to study the formation. Originally, Ling Yunzi didn't plan to come this time, but when he heard Zhang Fuliu describe the formation outside the cave, Mako Mori suddenly said that it was very similar to the existence left by the Kunlun devil cult in the past. It was related to the Kunlun devil cult, which was very sensitive, so Ling Yunzi came to investigate in person. Chapter 1040. Ling Yunzi was not good at formations. Hence, it was Lu Chonglu from the real martial arts cult who went forward to investigate the formation. After a while, Lu Chonglu let out a sigh of relief. He looked around hesitantly. Ling Yunzi frowned and asked, "Leader Lu, is there anything wrong?" Lu Chonglu shook his head and said, "There's nothing wrong with the formation. The key is the person who set up the formation. If the real martial arts cult's ancient book is correct, the person who set up the formation should be one of the 4 great demon lords of the Kunlun devil cult, the Weeping Demon Lord." There was an uproar as soon as he said that. Everyone was dumbfounded. The reputation of the Kunlun devil cult was not only supported by Dugu Weiwei. The 4 great demon lords of the past were also famous. Usually, the appearance of the inheritance of a hall master of the Kunlun demon sect would cause a huge commotion. But this time around, it was actually the appearance of the inheritance of a hall master of the Kunlun demon sect. This was enough to shake the entire pugilistic world. "Leader Lu, are you sure?" Ling Yunzi quickly asked. Lu Chonglu smiled bitterly and said, "How could I be wrong? In the Kunlun devil cult, the Weeping Demon Lord was known as the best in demonic formation. In fact, the Weeping Demon Lord's cultivation in formation was top-notch even in the martial world. The formation that he set up is very unique. It's recorded in the ancient book of the real martial arts cult. It's easy to identify it." Ling Yunzi furrowed his brows. He was still thinking about what he should do with this cave. Should he just seal it up and destroy it, or should he enter and explore it first? Actually, according to Ling Yunzi's thoughts, the less things of the demonic Dao appeared in the world, the better. Even if they were discovered, they would be directly sealed and never be able to see the light of day again. That was the safest choice. However, there were too many people present. The ancestor of the Xianxia clan had been staring at the cave with great interest. Helian Chongfeng from the White Tiger Hall had also come. He was more interested in the things in the cave. Although the White Tiger Hall wasn't part of the demonic path, it was clear that Helian Chongfeng wasn't opposed to cultivating demonic cultivation techniques. At this moment, a calm voice was heard, "Leader Ling Yunzi, are you worried about the inheritance of the Weeping Demon Lord? If you can seal it today, then in the future, there will also be people who can undo this seal. It's better to go down and investigate. After evenly dividing up the demonic path's vicious creatures, we can bring them back to our own sects and seal them again." Ling Yunzi looked up. Luo Mo was here too. There were also many forces from the West Chu. The old celestial master did not come, but Xian Longzi and Zhang Daoling did. The Forgetting Sword Hut and the Storm Sword Tomb also sent people over. Emperor Chen Qing, who hadn't left West Chu in a long time, also personally came. The others were only here for the Weeping Demon Lord. He was here for Yunzi. Ling Yunzi. Ling, Luo Xiao said. Yunzi Ing. Ling Yunzi looked at Luo Mo and nodded. That's good. As long as we don't let these evil things appear, it will be a great contribution to the martial world. Actually, there were many demonic things that were sealed by the sections. There were books and weapons. Logically speaking, some things were actually easier to destroy than to seal. However, as a martial artist, even if it was demonic martial arts, there were still some things that could be comprehended by analogy. Moreover, some things could not be destroyed and could only be sealed. These things were sealed in the deepest part of the sect. As long as the sect was not destroyed, these things would not come out. At this moment, a cold voice was heard. Things that you righteous sects can't use are evil things. You have to seal them. Do you have the final say? As the voice faded, Chu Xiu appeared from the periphery with Shang Tianliang and the others. The surrounding warriors subconsciously made way for them. During the last great battle between the righteous and demonic sects, it was also the battle between the northern Yan and the eastern Qi. Chu Xiu made a move at the crucial moment and turned the tide. His momentum was even more famous in the martial world. Ling Yunzi was unable to take down Chu Xiu when he was in the true fire spirit refinement state. Now that he was in the heaven and earth mysterious state, he still could not take down Chu Xiu. There were even rumors in the martial world that Chu Xiu was Ling Yunzi's nemesis. Seeing Chu Xiu appear, Ling Yunzi frowned slightly. He did not expect Chu Xiu to arrive so quickly. In fact, Chu Xiu had deliberately slowed down. In order not to expose himself, he estimated that the others had already arrived. That was why he rushed over unhurriedly. That's right. Although I don't have much of a relationship with the Kunlun demon sect, I still have a lot of respect for the 4 great demon lords of the past. Our moon-worshipping sect would like to get our hands on the legacy they left behind as well as pay our respects to them. All the righteous martial arts sects in the land of West Chu had come. Naturally, moon-worshipping cult would also be present. However, Yi Xiaonan did not come this time. Only Dong Huangtai had come. Perhaps in Yi Xiaonan's opinion, even the 4 great demon lords were inferior to him in the past. In that case, what value did he have? Seeing that more than half of the sect experts in the martial world had appeared here, Luo Mo and Ling Yunzi frowned. Chu Xiu was difficult to deal with. Although Yi Xiaonan had not come, moon-worshipping cult was also difficult to deal with. However, with their strength, they could still suppress them. However, neutral forces like Qinqing Di and the Shangshuaying clan were very interested in the cave of the demon lords. If they forcibly sealed it, these people would also be dissatisfied. Luo Mo waved his hand and said, "Open the formation." It was impossible to stop them. However, if there were any ferocious demonic creatures in the cave, they could just snatch them. It did not matter if it fell into the hands of the Ying clan. As long as it did not fall into the hands of Chu Xiu and the other demonic cultivators, it would be fine. Chu Xiu smiled at the side and said, "These formations were left behind by the ancestors of our Kunlun devil cult. Of course, we are the most familiar with them. Why don't you let us break the formations first?" Lu Chonglu snorted and said, "These formations were personally laid down by the heaven-weeping demon lord. He did not leave behind any inheritance. Where did your Yinma clan get the method to break the formations? Do you want to seize the initiative?" Seeing that Lu Chonglu and the others had already assumed that this was the inheritance of the ruins left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord, Chu Xiu smiled in his heart. This was the effect he wanted. However, on the surface, Chu Xiu sneered and said, "You don't know how to appreciate my kindness. In that case, if you are not afraid of casualties, you can do it yourself. The formations left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord are not that easy to break. These formations were laid down by Master Yuan Ji under Chu Xiu's instructions strictly according to the formation inheritance left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord. In the cave in the East China Sea, the heaven-weeping demon lord was already seriously injured and on the verge of death. Moreover, he did not have enough materials. Therefore, the formation that he laid down was not as powerful as the one that Master Yuan Ji had restored. Lu Jianghu and a group of martial artists from the real martial arts sect laid down the formation in front of the cave. After spending a lot of effort, they finally broke the formation. After the group of people entered the cave, they encountered all kinds of dangerous traps and formations along the way. After Lu Chonglu and the others identified them, they determined that they were all the work of the heaven-weeping demon lord. From the beginning, everyone did not have any doubts. At this moment, everything that they encountered along the way made them even more certain that this must be the ruins left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord. After the group of people finally broke the vicious formations and traps, they could not help but gasp when they saw the giant python, Xiao He, that was entrenched in the hull. In the current underworld, there were very few ferocious beasts. There were only a few in the 100,000 mountains. However, as soon as they appeared, they would be besieged by a group of martial artists like a moving treasure house. The giant python that was about to transform into a dragon was something that none of them had seen before. Chen Qingdi even touched his chin and muttered, "Such a big guy. Isn't its gallbladder very nutritious?" The surrounding people glanced at Chen Qingdi. This person's brain circuit was really different from ordinary people. At this moment, Mako Mori said solemnly, "I have seen it in the ancient books in the sect. It is said that in the past, in the Kunlun devil cult, the heartless demon lord used to raise a black giant python as a pet. That person is cruel and bloodthirsty, committing all sorts of crimes. He often kills the martial artists of our righteous sects to feed the giant python. If I'm not wrong, the giant python in front of me should be the pet of the heartless demon venerable. I am afraid that this is not only the ruins left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord." Everyone present took in a deep breath of cold air. Where in the world was this place that was left behind by two devil lords of the Kunlun demon sect? While everyone was still in a state of shock, Chu Xiu made the inner demon quietly disperse a portion of its power and attach it to Xiao Hei's mind. Xiao Hei's mental strength had been shattered by Chu Xiu previously and he had completely turned into a plant snake. The power of the heart demon was very unique. It was not mental strength, so it would not be noticed by others. Moreover, it was an existence with intelligence, so it could control the giant python. Back then, when Chu Xiu put in so much effort to bring Xiao Hei back, it was actually for this scene. Under the control of the heart demon, Xiao Hei slowly raised his head and opened his eyes. He roared at the crowd and a large amount of venom spewed out from his mouth. Rama waved his hand and a swastika appeared, easily blocking the venom. At the same time, the pure yang sword in Ling Yunzi's hand shone brightly and slashed at Xiao Hei. In an instant, the entire bottom of the cave was shrouded by the sword beam. Countless scales flew and Xiao Hei immediately rolled on the ground and howled miserably. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows. The heart demon was indeed a professional. His acting was not bad. What he was controlling was a walking corpse that did not feel pain at all. Yet, he acted as though it was real. On the other side, a Buddha Dharma form appeared behind Rama. He held the Aquarius seal in his hand and boundless Buddha light shrouded the snake's head. As the seal landed, the Aquarius seal shrank and in an instant, the snake's head was directly smashed. The heart demon's mental strength returned to Chu Xiu's mind and he muttered, "This monk is really ruthless. What happened to the benevolence of monks? He has no professional ethics at all." Chapter 1041. There were strong and weak existences in the heaven and earth elemental realm. Chu Xiu had seen many heaven and earth elemental realm powerhouses and could more or less see who was strong and who was weak among the supreme powerhouses in the Jianghu. There was no need to mention Zhong Shenxiu and Jun Wushan. Everyone knew of Yi Xiaonan's strength. The old heavenly master and Rama should be one of the few powerhouses in the present age that had the qualifications to fight Yi Xiaonan one-on-one. Apart from these, the others were weaker. Shang Tianliang and Ling Yunzi were the weakest. Ling Yunzi was weak because he had just stepped into the heaven and earth elemental realm, so his foundation was weaker. Shang Tianliang could step into the heaven and earth elemental realm in Ludu. Although it was enough to prove his amazing talent, there was nothing he could do about it. If Ling Yunzi had not used the pure yang sword in the previous war, Shang Tianliang would not have lost so badly. But with Ling Yunzi using the pure yang sword, Shang Tianliang could not hold on. At this time, Xiao Hei was completely killed by Rama. Even his head was gone. No one could see any flaws. When everyone stepped into the hall and saw the corpses of the heartless demon venerable and the weeping demon venerable, the entire place fell silent. Two demon venerables. These were two genuine demon venerables of the Kunlun devil cult. They stood at the peak of the Jianghu and brought endless fear to countless martial artists of the righteous path. No one doubted that the corpses were fake. Even if the two demon venerables were dead, this kind of aura could not be faked. Chu Xiu stood up and said coldly, "Everyone, these are two great seniors of my sacred cult. Now that they have fallen here, I must bring their corpses back and bury them properly. Killing people is just a matter of nodding one's head to the ground. They are already dead and the karma of the past is over. If you want to humiliate their corpses, then you will be fighting to the death with my hidden devil lineage. Chu Xiu's attitude was normal in most people's eyes. For the demon lineage, although they had frequent infighting, were not united, and did not follow the rules, some bottom lines could not be violated. Just like the last time the 5 sword sects used the demonic creation flag to lure the demon lineage, it had indeed angered them. Because the demonic creation flag represented the orthodox demon lineage. And right now, the corpses of the 2 demon lords represented the orthodox lineage of the Kunlun demon sect as well. Naturally, they were not to be insulted. Ling Yunzi said in a deep voice, I will give you the corpses, but you can't take them away. Your Inma lineage has not given up on restoring the Kunlun demon cult. If you were to obtain the inheritance of the 4 great demon lords, it would be a calamity for the Jianghu. Chu Xiu stood up and said, What do you mean get? That was originally something that belonged to my Inma bloodline. Ling Yunzi said coldly, 500 years ago, but not now. As Ling Yunzi's words rang out, Chu Xiu slashed out with his saber. A violent demonic aura swept up a storm as it slashed towards Ling Yunzi. After all, it was related to Chu Xiu's bottom line and the face of the hidden devil lineage. And now, Chu Xiu was almost equivalent to the leader of the hidden devil lineage. After all, this concerned Chu Xiu's bottom line and the face of the Inma lineage. And now, Chu Xiu was almost equivalent to the ruler of the Inma lineage, so it was normal for him to be excited. This cave was set up by Chu Xiu according to his memory and the face of the hidden devil lineage. And now, Chu Xiu was almost equivalent to the leader of the hidden devil lineage. Chu Xiu and Master Yuan Ji had spent a lot of effort to set up this cave according to his own memory. He thought that he had done it flawlessly. But in reality, a fake was a fake. Although there seemed to be no loopholes on the surface, who knew which details went wrong? Therefore, he had to cut the Gordian knot. The last time he fought with Chu Xiu, Ling Yunzi failed to defeat Chu Xiu. He had been criticized by many people in Jianghu, saying that Chu Xiu was his nemesis. After all, Ling Yunzi led the Chunyang Dao sect to fight twice, but he retreated in the hands of Chu Xiu. It was the case when he was in the true fire spirit refinement realm, and it was still the case when he reached the heaven and earth mysterious realm. Although there was a hidden story, and it was not that Ling Yunzi could not defeat Chu Xiu, but that the situation did not allow him to continue fighting, most of the ignorant people in Jianghu did not think so. If you retreated, then you could not beat him. Although you did not lose, you did not win either. Therefore, some people even said that Ling Yunzi did not deserve the title of Supreme Master. Although Ling Yunzi did not care much about his reputation in Jianghu, he could not stand others saying that. Seeing Chu Xiu make his move, the longsword in Ling Yunzi's hand shone with a myriad of rays of light, instantly illuminating the entire cavern. The scorching pure sunlight was like a cage, enveloping Chu Xiu within it. He did not use the pure yang divine weapon today. Shi Yunzi was not here, so he could not control the pure yang sword. However, even if he used an ordinary divine weapon, it would not be a problem for him to suppress Chu Xiu with his strength. The break formula saber will was unleashed, and the demonic chi saber aura tore everything in its path. Chu Xiu's eyes were scarlet red, and he used his killer move right from the start. His crazy look was not even seen during the righteous and demonic wars in the past. Lu Jianghe, who was at the side, could not help but twitch his mouth when he saw this. This guy's acting skills were getting better and better. He knew that Chu Xiu actually did not have much respect for the Kunlun demon sect. He even dared to make use of the corpses of 2 demon sovereigns. How could he possibly risk his life for the sake of protecting the bottom line of the Kunlun demon sect? As he complained, Lu Jianghe also attacked the righteous path sections. The fight between Chu Xiu and Ling Yunzi was very sudden. Before the people present could react, the two of them had already started fighting. As they fought, Chu Xiu's men also started fighting with the Chunyang Dao sect's men. Dong Wang Tai saw that although they were not from the Kunlun Devil cult, the Righteous Path sects wanted to exterminate the Devil Path sections. Obviously, they did not want them to obtain anything. Therefore, Dong Wang Tai also led the moon-worshipping sect's men to attack. Shang Tianliang had just recovered from his injuries. Now that he had to face the powerful Rama, he had no choice but to brace himself and rush forward. Although his strength had increased greatly, he was not much better than before when he faced an existence of Rama's level. After a few moves, he was sent flying by Rama. On the other side, when the Ying family patriarch saw everyone fighting, he went straight to the bodies of the two demon lords. At that moment, Rama suddenly stretched out his hand. The Buddha's Dharma idol suddenly descended. As it smiled, the Buddha's light shone brightly and blocked the Ying family patriarch to the side. Old Mr. Ying, be careful with the things of the devil path. The Xianxia Ying family's inheritance is not weak. If you specialize in the devil path, the gains will not make up for the losses. The Ying family patriarch laughed and said, "Who said that I am going to cultivate the devil path? The path of martial arts is to comprehend by analogy. Can't I use it to study it?" As he said that, the Ying family patriarch also rushed over and fought with Rama's Dharma idol. Rama was fighting 1 against 2, yet he was still able to block both of them. It was not easy for him. When the other cultivators below saw that everyone had already started fighting, they also made their moves. Originally, Chen Qingdi didn't want to make a move. He was just here to watch the show. His martial Dao didn't need the support of other cultivation methods. He didn't need to comprehend by analogy either. He only needed to stick to his own path. That was enough. However, this area was narrow. No one knew who made the move, but an astral sword slashed at Chen Qingdi. This immediately enraged him. He punched out, and a powerful force swept out. With the addition of Chen Qingdi, everyone present immediately became a mess. It was simply a mess. The attacks of the heaven and earth mystic enlightenment realm experts could topple mountains and overturn seas. However, in this place, they had to restrain their strength. However, no matter how much they restrained their strength, this place was only a small cave. Even with the reinforcement of an array, it still couldn't withstand such a powerful force. Thus, in just a short while, the entire cave was shaking. Even the corpse sitting on the bronze throne was swaying. A stone slab suddenly fell to the ground, making a crisp, ding sound. This caused the people who were fighting to pause for a moment. They could clearly see that the bluestone had fallen from the corpse of the Skycry demon venerable. It was obvious that he had been holding it in his hand. What kind of treasure was it that the Skycry demon venerable had been holding on to before his death? Ling Yunzi looked at Chu Xiu, who seemed to have gone crazy, and said in a deep voice, "Chu Xiu, stop. There's no point in continuing this fight. You should know what the inheritance of the Kunlun devil cult represents. We absolutely can't give up on this. However, your own inheritance is already shocking enough. You even have the secret inheritance of Dugu Weiwei. The inheritance of the two demon venerables is just icing on the cake for you. In the end, it's still not worth it for you. How about this? I can give you a promise. We will definitely not damage the corpses of the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Skycry Demon Venerable. We will let you bring them out in one piece. What do you think? Otherwise, if we continue to fight, the corpses of the two demon venerables will be destroyed. The inheritance may also be destroyed. Both sides will suffer and no one will be able to obtain anything." Chu Xiu hesitated for a moment before nodding his head in an unusually manner. Only then did everyone stop fighting and look at the bluestone. At such a sensitive moment, no one dared to make the first move. Only Luo Mo and the other experts went forward to look at the words on the bluestone. However, when they saw the contents of the stone slab, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They were shocked speechless by the contents of the stone slab. The mandate of heaven is undefeated, and the demon lord will not die. These 8 words were like a nightmare that was imprinted in their hearts. The demon lord would not die. Could it be that after 500 years, Dugu Weiwei really did not die? The entire place was silent. After a while, Zhang Daoling from Dragon Tiger Mountain said hesitantly, I heard that the Skycry Demon Venerable is the best in divination in the Devil Path. These 8 words are the contents of his divination? Luo Mo looked at Xiao Mo behind him and said in a deep voice, let's go take a look. Xiao Mo was blinded, but his divination skills had improved. This time, the people from the Temple of Great Light did not come. Among everyone present, he was the person with the highest attainment in divination. Chapter 1042. Xiao Mok held the stone slab. His originally lifeless eyes were now shining with a divine light. An extremely mysterious aura surged into the stone slab. In an instant, the stone slab shone brightly, and an even more mysterious aura was released. Although this aura seemed mysterious, it was actually the power of the heaven's sun gazing at air spell. However, it was not deducing anything, but an extremely pure power of karma that was formed by merging with the world. This kind of deduction that involved the power of karma was something that most of the people present could not understand. After a while, Xiao Mok finally stopped. The light dissipated, and he smiled bitterly. I can't read it, and I can't see it. This power involves the karma of the heavens, and its realm is higher than mine. The result that the heaven-weeping demon lord personally deduced is not something that we can see through at all. Only a heaven and earth elemental enlightenment cultivator who is proficient in karma divination can see through it. Hearing Xiao Mok's words, everyone's heart sank, including Dong Huang Tai's. It should be said that in this pugilistic world, other than the hidden demon lineage, no one hoped for Dugu Weiwei to reappear. This meant that there would be a powerful existence that dominated the entire pugilistic world above them. As long as the mandate of heaven was not defeated, the demon lord would not die. No one doubted that Dugu Weiwei had lost. In fact, until now, everyone believed that the most likely outcome of the battle 500 years ago was that Ning Xuanji sacrificed himself and perished together with Dugu Weiwei. However, how could the demon lord not die be explained? Could it be that Dugu Weiwei was still alive? Where was he? Luo Mo frowned slightly. Can't you read any bits and pieces of information? Xiao Mok shook his head. I can't tell. At this moment, Xiao Mok suddenly said, there's something down there. With a wave of his hand, 2 streams of vital qi pushed the bronze throne away, revealing the things that Chu Xiu had hidden underneath. To ensure authenticity, Chu Xiu had thrown many good things down there. There were even parts of the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable's inheritance. Those cultivation methods and ancient books were all buried under the throne. Everyone was envious, but no one touched them. Their gazes were all fixed on a piece of silk cloth. There was no power on the silk cloth, but it was precisely because of this that they felt puzzled. An ordinary silk cloth that had not even been contaminated with much devil qi was placed together with a bunch of powerful devil arts. Anyone who saw it would be suspicious. With a wave of his hand, Rama unfurled the silk cloth with his gang qi, revealing the words on it to the crowd. It was a paragraph of words left behind by the heaven-weeping demon venerable. As long as the heavenly mandate is not defeated, the demon lord will not die. This was the future of the saint that I had deduced with my last bit of effort. 500 years later, the sect master's devil core was not destroyed. His true spirit reincarnated and he returned after experiencing 10,000 tribulations. The inheritance of this place shall be left to the descendants of my devil path. Those who obtain my inheritance shall follow the sect master and return to Kunlun to establish the foundation of my saint sect for eternity. As long as the sacred flame is not extinguished, the demonic Tao shall exist forever. When they finished reading the words left on the silk cloth, everyone present was silent. However, their hearts were surging like waves, and they couldn't calm down no matter what. Dugu Weiwei didn't die. He actually succeeded in reincarnating. This news was like a nightmare coming true for them. There was a trace of fear in everyone's eyes. Even if they had not lived through that era, they had felt the terror of being dominated by the monstrous power of the demonic flames from the ancient records of their sections. Even Luo Mo, who was always calm and composed, was frowning at this moment. His thoughts were in a mess. Shou Zhenzi's voice trembled slightly as he asked, "What year is Jianshan year?" The corner of Ling Yunzi's mouth twitched as he said, "If we start counting from the year when the Kunlun devil cult was destroyed, the year of Jianshan 500 years later would be 18 years ago." Hearing Ling Yunzi's words, everyone present immediately trembled. 18 years ago? Didn't that mean that while they were fighting for their lives here, there was a pair of eyes in Jianghu that had been watching them all this time? Who knew when the monstrous demonic flames would bloom and the entire Jianghu would be shrouded in demonic power again? It wasn't that no one present had doubted the authenticity of this matter. After all, reincarnation was too mystical. However, this person was Dugu Weiwei, so anything was possible. Everyone had only heard of how powerful the eternal demon pill was, but now, they had seen it for themselves. Previously, Chu Xiu had fought to the death with the old monk from Sabodhi Monastery, but he was still able to reconstruct his body. Wasn't that shocking enough? Most importantly, the person who had done this was only Chu Xiu. The difference between Chu Xiu and Dugu Weiwei could be said to be like the difference between clouds and mud. If Chu Xiu could do this, why couldn't Dugu Weiwei? Moreover, it was better to believe in this kind of thing than not. Even if there was only a 1 in a million possibility, it was enough to make the entire Jianghu panic. Everyone present had a myriad of thoughts. Some people subconsciously looked in the direction of Chu Xiu, only to find that the situation on Chu Xiu's side was very interesting. Shang Tianliang looked indifferent. Chu Wuji, a martial artist from the Yinma clan, looked excited, but Chu Xiu was expressionless, as if he wasn't happy. Everyone present had come out of the Jianghu's infighting and killing, so they had already guessed Chu Xiu's thoughts. Although Chu Xiu was now the leader of the Yinma clan, in fact, he was not a direct descendant of the Kunlun devil cult. The direct descendants of the Kunlun devil cult all called the Kunlun devil cult as a holy cult, but this word was rarely heard from Chu Xiu's mouth. The appearance of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation was definitely a joyous event for the other members of the Kunlun devil cult, but it was not the case for Chu Xiu. Because it meant that he was no longer the orthodox of the diabolism, and even the Yinma clan was bound to change masters. He, Chu Xiu, would also go from being above tens of thousands of people to being below countless people. In normal times, they would still be very interested in the internal strife of the diabolism, but now that the news of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation was in front of them, it no longer aroused their interest. The deterrence of the name Dugu Weiwei was not something that Chu Xiu could compare with. At this moment, Chen Qingdi suddenly said, "I say, do you still want the things inside? If you don't want them, I'm going to take them." Although Chen Qingdi did not plan to snatch the treasures this time, seeing that no one present was taking action, wouldn't it be a waste to just leave them here? After Chen Qingdi's interruption, Ling Yunzi and the others finally took action and divided the things inside. Moreover, according to the previous agreement, the bodies of the 2 demon lords and the bronze thrones were handed over to Chu Xiu. They did not go back on their word and were very efficient. Previously, many righteous sects still regarded Chu Xiu as a great enemy, and some even said that if Chu Xiu did not suppress him as soon as possible, it would be too late for regrets when he grew into the next Dugu Weiwei. But now, the real Dugu Weiwei had appeared, and who cared about Chu Xiu? After coming out of the cave, the people present did not even have time to exchange greetings. They all hurried back to the sect to prepare to discuss this matter. This matter was even more terrifying than the rise of Yi Shaonan and Chu Xiu in the past. No one knew what the reincarnation of Dugu Weiwei looked like, whether he had memories, whether his strength had recovered, and so on. A few days later, this news had completely broken out, and it instantly caused panic in the entire underworld. Although Luo Mo and the others wanted to hide it and then secretly search for clues about the reincarnation of Dugu Weiwei, there were too many people who entered the cave. However, there were too many people who had entered the cave, and there were even some rogue cultivators following behind them, so it was impossible to hide it. Although they did not even see the shadow of Dugu Weiwei, the name Dugu Weiwei had already shrouded the entire underworld in a demonic shadow. In the Jianghu Hall, Wei Shuya was still in seclusion, and the other core figures on Chu Xiu's side were all there. They knew about Chu Xiu's plan, and now they saw that Chu Xiu actually used a fake news to turn the entire underworld upside down. They were all shocked. Yes, the current underworld was turned upside down. After the people of the major forces returned to their sects, the first thing they did was to send the disciples of their sects to search for the martial artists born 18 years ago. In their opinion, since Dugu Weiwei had been reincarnated for 18 years, but he did not appear, there were only two possibilities. One was that his strength was not enough, and the other was that after reincarnation, he did not recover his previous memories. No matter which one it was, if they found him now, the righteous sect still had a chance. Otherwise, there was no second Ning Xuanji in the current underworld to stop Dugu Weiwei. However, doing this was actually like looking for a needle in a haystack. There were countless martial artists born 18 years ago. How could they find them? Moreover, who said that the reincarnation of Dugu Weiwei must be born in a martial artist family? What if he was an ordinary person? What if he was from the royal family? What if he was overseas? These were all things that could not be said for certain. However, now that everyone was panicking, they could only temporarily use such a stupid method to calm the hearts of the people. As for Rama, he directly contacted the Great Light Temple and asked Xiao Mo, Su Jing, the Dao sect, and a few great grandmasters who were proficient in divination to deduce the Devil Lord's immortal slate and see if there were any clues. In any case, the entire underworld's attention was attracted by the name of Dugu Weiwei. No one was paying attention to Chu Xiu anymore. Mei Qinglian asked, now that everyone's attention has been attracted, can we consider going up Kunlun Mountain again? At the thought of this, even Mei Qinglian could not help but feel a little excited. Kunlun, the inheritance of the devil cult, still existed, but the descendants of the devil cult had never been to Kunlun Mountain in their entire lives. And now, this opportunity was right in front of them. How could they not be excited? Chu Xiu knocked on the table and said, "There's no hurry. We still need to make them think that I'm one of them. Only then will we be able to minimize the impact of my reopening of Kunlun Mountain. And don't forget about Situ Chi and his gang. Before going up Kunlun Mountain, we should also get rid of those stinking bugs." Chapter 1043. Chu Xiu had disliked Situ Chi and the others for a long time. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of them all. Mei Qinglian asked, "Become one of us? What do you want to do?" Chu Xiu turned his gaze to Chu Wuji, who was slumped on the chair and playing with a jade ring. He said, "Senior Chu, I'll have to trouble you to help me with this matter." Hearing Chu Xiu suddenly mention him, Chu Wuji was stunned and did not react. In fact, Chu Wuji was a very lazy person. In the past, Chu Wuji was born in the royal family of the Wei Kingdom. Although he spent most of his time in Jianghu, he still had some royal habits. Later, because the Wei Kingdom was destroyed, he joined the evil Dao. That was also the time when he cultivated crazily. It was also at that time that he was valued by Wei Shuya. But later, when all his enemies were dead, Chu Wuji returned to his lazy self. It was not that he did not have the desire to excel, but this desire was not very strong. Therefore, when Wei Shuya regarded Chu Xiu as the successor, Chu Wuji also did his best to help him, without any jealousy. In his opinion, if Chu Xiu could carry the banner of the Hidden Devil clan, he would be the one who would have it easy. Otherwise, if there was no Chu Xiu, he would be the next person to carry the banner of Wei Shiya's clan. Although he was unwilling, because of Elder Wei's kindness in the past, he had to carry it even if he did not want to. Now that there was Chu Xiu, it was a happy ending. Therefore, for a period of time after that, Chu Wuji lived a very comfortable life. Most of the time, he followed Elder Wei. When there was something, he would help, and when there was nothing, he would just stroll around. It was more like a retirement than Wei Shiya. At this time, when Chu Xiu mentioned himself, Chu Wuji sat up straight and said, "How do you need me to help?" Chu Wuji might be lazy, but he wouldn't decline when he was required to take action. Chu Xiu said, "It's very simple. I need Senior Chu to fall out with me." "Fall out with you?" Chu Wuji was stunned. Chu Xiu nodded and said, "That's right. The news of the sect master's reincarnation has already been acknowledged by the entire underworld. At this time, if there is an internal strife in the Devil Dao, I believe they will be happy to see it." "What's the reason?" "Even if I fall out with you for no reason, they won't believe me." Chu Wuji shrugged. "The reason is because of the sect master's reincarnation." Chu Xiu pointed to himself and said, "Right now, I am the leader of the Immortal clan, and Elder Wei also treats me as his successor. Now that the sect master's reincarnation has appeared, it will definitely affect my position. Therefore, if I return to Kunlun Mountain at this time, in the eyes of others, it will be me, Chu Xiu, being blinded by greed and eager to prove my position. As for Senior Chu, you fell out with me because you can't stand my actions. You are also jealous of me and dissatisfied that Elder Wei is biased towards me, a latecomer, and treats me as the successor of the Immortal clan. Therefore, you led a portion of the Immortal clan's warriors to fall out with me and split with me." Chu Wuji rubbed his chin and smiled bitterly. "You speak as if it's true, but to be honest, I have never had such thoughts. When Elder Wei chose you as his successor, I raised both hands in favor. I really can't sit in such a troublesome position." Chu Xiu smiled and said, "Of course I know this. Everyone here also knows this, but most of the Jianghu people don't know this. Therefore, we only need to let them see a fragmented Immortal clan. My occupation of Kunlun Mountain is not a threat. In their eyes, it is a hidden danger of the demonic path's division and an obstacle that needs to be removed for the sect master's reincarnation." Mei Qinglian raised her eyebrows and said, "Then how are you going to deal with Situ Chi and the others?" A cold light flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes as he said, "If they learn of this news, do you think they will go to Senior Chu and take the initiative to propose an alliance? At that time, won't the problem be solved? What if they don't come?" Chu Xiu waved his hand and said with a murderous aura, "If they don't come, I will take the initiative to go to them and kill them all." In fact, when he learned that Situ Chi and the others had dared to take advantage of the situation, Chu Xiu had already had the intention to kill them. However, at that time, he had just experienced a great battle and there were too many things that needed to be sorted out. Moreover, there was an urgent need to investigate the East Sea, so Chu Xiu did not make a move for the time being. Otherwise, Situ Chi and the others would not have survived until now. After arranging everything, Chu Xiu directly took a part of the elites of the Jianghu Hall and openly set off to West Kunlun. He also made the news that he wanted to restore the orthodox diabolism, but he did not mention Dugu Weiwei at all. As soon as this news came out, it immediately shocked the Jianghu. Since the destruction of the Kunlun devil cult, the Kunlun mountain was the taboo of the taboo. No diabolism force dared to go to the Kunlun mountain, even the moon-worshipping cult had not been there. Now, Chu Xiu actually dared to do this. Was he crazy? In the Eastern Qi Chunyang Dao sect, in addition to the people of the Chunyang Dao sect, there were also Lu Chonglu and Han Jusi from the true martial arts cult, as well as Zhang Daoling and Xian Longzi from the Taoist master mansion. The news of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation was too shocking, so the three Taoist sects changed their indifferent appearance in the past and joined forces to discuss countermeasures. Zhang Daoling frowned and said, "What is Chu Xiu thinking? Why does he want to go to the Kunlun devil cult at this time? Is he preparing to welcome the reincarnation of Dugu Weiwei? In that case, should we stop him? Because the Taoist master mansion was in West Chu, they had the least dealings with Chu Xiu, and they did not know much about Chu Xiu's character. Ling Yunzi shook his head and said, no need to stop him. Chu Xiu is going to West Kunlun now. I'm afraid he is panicking. For us, it is a good thing. Oh? Why? Ling Yunzi said in a deep voice, Chu Xiu is a person with wild ambition. He is also a rare hero. Compared to the older generation of diabolism, he is even worse. A person like him would never submit to anyone. In the past, he betrayed the Blue Dragon Society and joined the Guanzhong torture room. In fact, he was digging up the foundation of the Guanzhong torture room. In the end, when Guan Xiu died in the hands of Tianmen Divine Lord Luo, he seized the Guanzhong torture room. After that, he joined the Northern Yen and established the Martial Suppression Hall. He also listened to orders but did not listen to orders. When the Northern Yen Emperor Xiang Long died, he deposed the crown prince and supported his own puppet as the emperor. This has happened time and time again. Do you all think that Chu Xiu is someone who is willing to bow down and be a coward? Moreover, he was not a direct descendant of the Yinma clan. He did not have that much respect for the Kunlun devil cult and Dugu Weiwei. So, his actions this time only have one meaning. That is to occupy the Kunlun mountain before Dugu Weiwei is born. He will get the position of orthodox diabolism and take the initiative. Zhang Daoling said, what if Dugu Weiwei really appears again? Ling Yunzi sneered, that depends on the situation. Everyone has heard of reincarnation, but never seen it. If Dugu Weiwei reincarnated and became the devil lord who suppressed the whole world, he would most likely offer Mount Kunlun to the devil cult, saying that he was the vanguard of the devil cult. If something happens to Dugu Weiwei after reincarnation, and he loses his memory or doesn't have the power he had 500 years ago, then he will occupy the Kunlun devil cult and make himself the orthodox diabolism. Ling Yunzi had fought with Chu Xiu several times. Every time he suffered a setback, he would study Chu Xiu's way of doing things. He thought he understood Chu Xiu very well. In fact, if Chu Xiu did not take the initiative to set this up, and such a thing really happened, Chu Xiu would really do as Ling Yunzi said. He would first occupy the Kunlun mountain, and then decide whether to endure or not. Zhang Daoling hesitated, even so, we cannot ignore this matter. Kunlun mountain has been sealed for 500 years. The news of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation has spread all over Jianghu. Now, with Chu Xiu's return to Kunlun mountain, this is a very serious blow to the orthodox. Ling Yunzi said in a low voice, we have to intervene, but not now. We have to intervene last. The latest news has been sent. Chu Wuji and Chu Xiu turned against each other, and left the Jianghu Hall with a group of the most senior warriors of the Yinma clan. Before Chu Xiu appeared, Chu Wuji was the one with the strongest potential in Wei Shuya's bloodline. In the future, he would definitely be the successor of Wei Shuya's bloodline. At the same time, he might also be the leader of the hidden devil bloodline. However, ever since Chu Xiu had appeared, Wei Shuya had completely changed his usual fair and just attitude. He had tried his best to protect Chu Xiu, so it was normal for Chu Wuji to be unhappy. In addition, Chu Xiu's insistence on going to Kunlun Mountain would definitely make some of the direct descendants of the Yinma clan dissatisfied. Division was inevitable. Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation has not been found, and we have no time to care about the Yinma clan and the moon-worshipping cult. Since they were already fighting amongst themselves, he would let them fight amongst themselves first. And don't forget, there is more than one Kunlun devil cult on Kunlun Mountain. There is also the Kunlun Elysium. Chu Xiu killed the Elysium Divine General, and he has already made a great enemy of Elysium. This time he went back to Kunlun Mountain, Elysium might also make a move. With so many obstacles in front of us, we are not in a hurry to make a move. Let's just watch the show first. We will deal with it after the show is over. Hearing Ling Yunzi say so, Lu Chonglu and Zhang Daoling did not say much. After all, for them, finding Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation was the most important thing. Everything else could be postponed. But they also sighed in their hearts. Chu Xiu had really forced Ling Yunzi into a corner. Ling Yunzi was the sect master of Chunyang Dao sect, a dignified supreme master of heaven and earth mysterious realm. In the end, he had to carefully collect information on Chu Xiu and speculate on the thoughts of a junior martial artist like Chu Xiu. Thinking about it made him feel sad. Of course, Ling Yunzi was really forced into a corner by Chu Xiu. They had fought several times. If it was a one-on-one battle of life and death, how could he, a dignified supreme master of heaven and earth mysterious realm, lose? But every time at the critical moment, he was forced to retreat by Chu Xiu's means. This made him feel extremely sullen. Only then did he start to carefully study Chu Xiu's character and means. Chapter 1044. Going back to Kunlun Mountain was crazy. If it had been in the past, Chu Xiu would have been blocked by a group of righteous experts before he could reach West Kunlun. Now, although some people felt that it was not right to let Chu Xiu go back to Kunlun Mountain so easily, the news of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation shook the entire Jianghu. How could they have time to care about Chu Xiu? In particular, the news of Chu Wuji and Chu Xiu's falling out made some righteous sects even more disinclined to care about this matter. Most people had the same opinion as Ling Yunzi. Dugu Weiwei was a great calamity for the entire Jianghu. Chu Xiu? He used to be a threat, but in front of Dugu Weiwei, he was nothing more than a scabbard. Now that the lurking devil clan had fallen out with him, he would let them bite each other first. When they were done biting each other, he would deal with them when he was free. At this moment, at the border of Wei County, Situchi, Si Wuya, and the other cultivators who had gone to the martial suppression hall to add insult to injury were all gathered here. Some of their disciples were also there. This was almost all of their strength. Recently, Situchi and the others had a very difficult time. In the past, they were all big shots in the lurking devil clan. No matter how much power they had, they still had a status. However, as the three of them fell out with Chu Xiu, and even Li Jiaodi was killed by Chu Xiu, Situchi and Kuanamo became more and more difficult. They had been rebuked by Chu Xiu time and time again. It was utterly humiliating. Their power and influence in the hidden devil clan had been completely lost. Now, the entire lurking devil clan had actually been completely divided. Most of them were on Chu Xiu's side. He was already the veritable leader of the lurking devil clan. Wei Shiya's bloodline, the bloodline of the phaseless demon sect, and a large number of rogue cultivators and backbone forces of the hidden devil bloodline all stood on Chu Xiu's side. Naturally, there were also some people who remained neutral. For example, sectless cultivators like the Earth Devil cultivator, Umoya, were in the minority compared to forces like the Scarlet Drill Devil sect. As for Situchi and the others, they had almost all been excluded from the Yinma clan. Other than their own pitiful disciples and grand disciples, they had almost no one else under them. Therefore, when Si Wuya came looking for them, they seemed to have found a way out. They joined forces with Si Wuya to fish in troubled waters and dig out Chu Xiu's roots. Si Wuya stood before the gate of Wei County's citadel built by Jiangshan Pavilion. He said in a deep voice, "Is Chu Wuji here?" Situchi nodded and said, "Chu Wuji used to be a member of the royal family of the Wei Kingdom. After he fell out with Chu Xiu, he brought his men to Wei County." Si Wuya looked at the city gate. A myriad of thoughts ran through his mind. Back then, there were many powerhouses trapped in the primitive demon cave, but only the demonic path was different from the righteous path fellows. Even after 800 years, those people from the righteous path would still be able to find their own sect. However, what about them? When they finally saw the light of day again, when they turned around, their sect was long gone, and they were all alone. Who could accept that? Si Wuya and the others were once sect leaders or elders of major fiend path sections. Naturally, they could not accept such a situation. That was why they had tried to dig out Chu Xiu's roots and take over a portion of the hidden devil bloodline's power. However, they did not expect the hidden devil bloodline to be so stubborn even when they were in such dire straits. Now that Chu Wuji had fallen out with Chu Xiu and the others, it gave Si Wuya a chance to regain control of the hidden devil bloodline's power. At this moment, Situ Chi said hesitantly, "Brother Si, why don't we give up? News of the sect master's reincarnation has spread. The more we do, the more mistakes we'll make. Why don't we wait patiently and see if the sect master's reincarnation really appears? We'll make our move when the time comes." Situ Chi had suffered at Chu Xiu's hands several times. In truth, he had developed a sense of fear toward Chu Xiu. He was slightly reluctant to go against Chu Xiu now. However, he was an expert in the true fire spirit refinement realm, after all. He was one of the bosses of the fiend path in the past. It was too early for him to make a move now. If Dugu Weiwei really appeared, he would immediately side with the sect master and speak ill of Chu Xiu to the sect master. If Dugu Weiwei did not appear, and Chu Wuji had fallen out with Chu Xiu, he would look for an opportunity to deal with Chu Xiu. It was too early for him to make a move now. Si Wuya frowned and said, "Wait patiently. Time doesn't wait for me. If we miss this opportunity, when do we have to wait? Brother Situ, you should know that Chu Xiu's subordinates used to be united. It's rare for his subordinates to be divided. If we miss this opportunity, it'll be too late for regrets." Si Wuya had always looked down on Situ Chi. The cultivators of his generation were born in troubled times. They fought and killed in the martial world. The power they wielded was comparable to the sect masters of the major sections. In the end, Situ Chi and the others were not weak, and yet, they ended up like this. Moreover, they were humiliated by a junior like Chu Xiu. It was only natural that Si Wuya felt disdain toward them. Moreover, Si Wuya did not know about Dugu Weiwei's existence. Ever since they left the primitive demon cave, Si Wuya and the others had used many channels to learn about the current martial world, mainly the fiend path. The name Dugu Weiwei was what they heard the most. Although the rumors described Dugu Weiwei as powerful and incredible, Si Wuya had not lived through that era. Moreover, he was not like Situ Chi and the others who had grown up listening to legends about Dugu Weiwei. Therefore, he felt that everything about Dugu Weiwei was exaggerated. For this reason, Si Wuya would not place his interests in the hands of an illusory reincarnated cultivator. Situ Chi did not say anything when he saw how determined Si Wuya was. Ever since he joined forces with Si Wuya to dig up the lurking devil progeny's foundation, his relationship with the lurking devil progeny was completely severed. Even Qin Chaoxian and the others who had taken a neutral stance were no longer willing to interact with him. Although Qin Chaoxian and the others did not help him back then, they were all members of the lurking devil progeny. Not only did Situ Chi refuse to help, but he even took advantage of the situation. That was too much. "Let's enter the city." Si Wuya waved his hand. The group entered the citadel. The citadel was a new city. When Jiangshan Pavilion had first taken control of Wei County, they had paid a great price to build it. They wanted to use it as their capital city. Now that the kingdom of Wei was gone, Wei County was Wei County once again. The so-called capital city was now a joke. In truth, the northern Yan did not object to the kingdom of Wei's existence. Chu Xiu had already informed Xiangli that Jiangshan Pavilion was willing to back down. In that case, everything would remain the same. However, after Zhao Yuanfeng went to the northern Yan, he felt uneasy. That was why he took the initiative to erase the kingdom of Wei's name and reverted to the northern Yan's Wei County. At this moment, they were in a palace in the citadel. This used to be the imperial palace. However, some of the taboo decorations had been removed by Jiangshan Pavilion. Zhao Yuanfeng looked at Chu Wuji, who was sitting across him, and smiled bitterly. Chu Wuji had been in the citadel for a long time. He was staying here with a group of lurking devil progeny cultivators as though he wanted to settle down here. He knew about the fallout between Chu Wuji and Chu Xiu. Therefore, he really did not want Chu Wuji to stay here. He was a ticking time bomb. However, the problem was that he did not dare to drive Chu Wuji away. Jiangshan Pavilion had suffered heavy losses before. An elder and a large number of disciples had died. It was still unknown whether they could defeat the people brought by Chu Wuji. Most importantly, he did not know what was going on between Chu Wuji and Chu Xiu. As the most prestigious person in the lurking devil progeny, Wei Shuya, who had personally promoted Chu Xiu and Chu Wuji, was now in closed-door cultivation. If Wei Shuya came out of closed-door cultivation and used his prestige to subdue Chu Xiu and Chu Wuji and make them reconcile, he would offend them for no reason. That would be tragic. Therefore, Zhao Yuanfeng could only say cautiously, "Brother Chu, it's just a small problem between you and official Chu. There's no need to be so hostile, right? It's not good for you to stay in Wei Prefecture all the time. Why don't you return to the subduing martial hall and talk things over? Maybe the problem will be solved." Chu Wuji glanced at Zhao Yuanfeng and snorted, "Why? Pavilion Master Zhao, are you driving me away? You should know that Wei Prefecture used to be my Chu family's Wei Kingdom. Strictly speaking, this is my territory. Now that Pavilion Master Zhao has occupied this place, I haven't said anything. Why are you driving me away?" Zhao Yuanfeng smiled awkwardly and said, "You must be joking, Brother Chu. Why would I drive you away? I'm just..." Before he could finish speaking, a voice rang from outside. "Wei Prefecture may not have a place for you, Brother Chu, but there's bound to be a place for you in the pugilistic world. Moreover, the lurking devil progeny was built by you and Chu Xiu in the past. Why are you leaving without anything and giving it to Chu Xiu? Brother Chu, come with me. Let's get back what you've lost." As soon as the voice finished speaking, Si Wuya and the others walked into the great hall. Zhao Yuanfeng's expression was grim. These people had barged in without permission. It was clear they had forced their way in. With Jiangshan Pavilion's resources, it was true that they built a palace in a hurry without a formation. Indeed, it could not stop a true fire soul refinement realm expert. However, they had swaggered in. It was clear they had no intention of showing Jiangshan Pavilion any respect. When Chu Wuji saw Si Wuya and the others had come, he frowned. Chu Xiu had asked him to put on an act to attract the attention of the Noble Path sects and create the illusion that the Fiend Path was fighting among themselves. This was to create an opportunity for Chu Xiu to ascend Kunlun Mountain. He did not expect Si Wuya and the others to take the bait and come to him. It seemed like he could not stay idle anymore. It was time for him to put on an act. Chapter 1045. Since Si Wuya and the others had come knocking on his door, Chu Wuji did not hold back. Although he did not think his acting skills were as good as Chu Xiu's, at the very least, he was not too bad. When Chu Wuji saw them, his expression darkened as he said, "Situ Chi, what are you doing here? Are you here to watch me make a fool of myself?" Situ Chi shook his head and said, "Brother Chu, what are you talking about? We came all the way to Wei County just to watch you make a fool of yourself. Don't you think we have too much time on our hands? We've heard about what happened to you. Chu Xiu has crossed the line. News of the sect master's reincarnation has just surfaced in the pugilistic world, and yet, he wants to go to Kunlun Mountain first. Isn't this crossing the line? He doesn't know the rules. Moreover, he turned on you as soon as Elder Wei went into seclusion. It's clear how cold-blooded Chu Xiu is. We've only come this time because we want to invite Brother Chu to go look for Chu Xiu and ask for justice." Chu Wuji sneered and said, "Do you think I don't know what kind of people you are? Why would you be so kind as to help me? You're doing this for yourselves. Get lost. I'll seek justice myself. There's no need for you to interfere. Chu Wuji's attitude was extremely rude. However, Situ Chi and Si Wuya were not enraged. From their point of view, Chu Wuji had just fallen out with Chu Xiu and led his people away in a miserable manner. It was normal for him to be angry at this moment. Si Wuya took a step forward and said in a deep voice, "Brother Chu, since time has stopped for 800 years, we're of the same generation. In my era, whether it's the noble path or the fiend path, there's an order and a rule. There's an order of seniority, just like in a dynasty. Although the path of the martial path no longer depends on age, those who are older still have a certain status in the sect. Brother Chu, you were valued by Elder Wei before Chu Xiu. Now, all of Chu Xiu's status, all of his power, and the support of the Yinma bloodline actually belong to you. Chu Xiu is powerful, so it's reasonable for him to take all these things. But now, he's driving you out of northern Yen. That's too much." Chu Wuji snorted and said, "I wasn't driven out by anyone. I left on my own." Si Wuya smiled and said, "That's not important. What's important is that as long as Chu Xiu is around, you'll never be able to stand out." As Si Wuya spoke, he called out to a cultivator who was also one of the cultivators from 800 years ago and said, "Daoist Master Blood Wirm, tell us about your divination." Si Wuya pointed at the Daoist priest who was dressed in a blood-red Daoist robe and said, "Daoist Master Blood Wirm is a grandmaster who specializes in divination. His strength isn't inferior to the Great Radiance Temple's Su Jing or the Sabodhi Monastery's Shao Mo." Daoist Master Blood Wirm held a horsetail whisk in his hand. He looked at Chu Wuji and muttered, "Brother Chu, your surname is Chu. Chu Xiu's surname is also Chu. However, you came before him when you joined the Yinma bloodline and won Elder Wei's favor. This karma, this opportunity, belongs to you. However, there are times when the heavenly Tao is careless and allowed Chu Xiu to cut off your karmic luck. It's precisely because the two of you have the same surname that this happened. This time, we'll help you reclaim the Yinma bloodline's authority. Chu will replace Chu. This is karma and destiny." When Chu Wuji heard Daoist Master Blood Wirm's words, he nearly laughed out loud. Even if he had not eaten pork, he had seen pigs run. Indeed, Chu Wuji was clueless about divination. However, Master Yuan Ji, who was under Chu Xiu, was a grandmaster who specialized in divination. Daoist Master Blood Wirm was clearly spouting nonsense. How could his surname affect karma and luck? What a joke! Chu Wuji forced himself not to laugh out loud. He said in a low voice, "Is what you said true?" Daoist Master Blood Wirm said, "Of course. 800 years ago, I was already a rare elite in the pugilistic world with my divination skills. There are only a handful of people in the pugilistic world who are on par with me." Chu Wuji secretly pursed his lips. If you're really good at divination, you wouldn't have been trapped in the primitive demon cave for 800 years. However, despite these thoughts, Chu Wuji pretended to be tempted. He said hesitantly, "Even if that's the case, how are you going to fight Chu Xiu? Do you think I don't want to fight Chu Xiu? That's because I can't. Chu Xiu has a mystic enlightening realm elite like Shang Tianliang by his side. It's useless even if Elder Wei is on my side. Forgive me for being blunt, but with your meager strength, even with me, you're still useless against Chu Xiu. I'll just wait here obediently. When the sect master reincarnates and returns to the pugilistic world, I'll go to him and complain about Chu Xiu. Perhaps, when Elder Wei comes out of seclusion, I'll ask him to uphold justice." Si Wuya narrowed his eyes and said, "It's not just you and us. Brother Situ, tell me, who else have we contacted?" At the side, Situ Chi said, "The Crimson Drill sects Qin Chaosien, Umoya, and the others are currently waiting for Chu Xiu at the foot of Kunlun Mountain. Kunlun Mountain isn't that easy to ascend. Why does Chu Xiu want to ascend Kunlun Mountain just because he says so? Who is he to ascend Kunlun Mountain? Brother Chu, as long as you confront Chu Xiu in front of everyone and point out his wild ambition, I can guarantee that nobody will stand on Chu Xiu's side. Chu Wuji waved his hand and said, those below the mystic enlightening realm are but ants. Under the heavens, apart from Chu Xiu, Kang Dongming, and a few other freaks, nobody can stop a mystic enlightening realm elite. You don't know Chu Xiu. With how ruthless he is, what will you do if he doesn't care about his reputation and kills without any excuses? In the eyes of Si Wuya and the others, Chu Wuji was already convinced. He was considered half one of them. Hence, Si Wuya no longer concealed the trump card he had prepared. He smiled faintly and said, Brother Chu, have you heard of the great ancient fiend path sect, the heaven-devouring fiend sect? Chu Wuji narrowed his eyes and said, yes, I have. It's said that it's a top fiend path sect in the ancient times. However, I think they killed themselves while researching some secret method to advance their cultivation base. They were destroyed before the great ancient calamity. A smug smile appeared on Si Wuya's face as he said, in the past, I obtained a supreme treasure of the heaven-devouring fiend sect, the heaven-devouring fiend gourd. Although the heaven-devouring fiend gourd is slightly damaged, as long as each of you offers a portion of your blood, it'll be enough to replenish the formation veins in the gourd. When the time comes for battle, the heaven-devouring fiend gourd will have the power to change the world. It'll forcefully twist the laws of heaven and earth, and the mystic enlightening realm will no longer exist. Without the threat of a mystic enlightening realm elite, would Chu Xiu still dare to flip the table? Chu Wuji appeared pleasantly surprised, but inwardly, he thought, what a close shave. These fellows had been beaten up by Chu Xiu several times. Even Chu Wuji had underestimated them. He had forgotten that they were martial artists born 800 years ago. In that era, Dugu Weiwa had yet to dominate the world of Jianghu. Thus, nearly all of the demonic path's supreme treasures were in the hands of the various large sections. Every family had their own hidden treasures. Chu Wuji thought about it for a moment before he gritted his teeth and said, fine. I'll go with you. I hope you won't disappoint me. Si Wuya laughed and said, don't worry, Brother Chu. We're doing this for the future of the fiend path. We won't let that madman, Chu Xiu, control the fiend path. We won't lose. Chu Wuji nodded. He turned to look at Zhao Yuanfeng and said calmly, Pavilion Master Zhao, are you all right after listening to us? Zhao Yuanfeng was shocked. He hastily said, Brother Chu, you've been in Wei County for a long time. I've never mistreated you. Don't worry, I'm a tight-lipped person. I know what I can say and what I can't. Si Wuya waved his hand casually and said, it's fine. This is an open plan. It's not a big deal even if he tells Chu Xiu. After the others left, Zhao Yuanfeng wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. For the first time, he felt that the Central Plains warriors were too dangerous. Zhao Yuanfeng regretted his decision. It was safer overseas. However, when he thought about it, if he had stayed overseas, he might have gone to hell with his godfather. What a sin. Zhao Yuanfeng shook his head. He told his disciples to be careful while he went to cultivate in seclusion. 3 months later, in the far west, Chu Xiu led a group of elites from the Martial Suppression Hall and the Lurking Devil clan through the desert of the far west. They finally saw the Kunlun mountain range that traversed the far west. The far west was sparsely populated. Most of the lands were barren. The weather was sometimes hot and sometimes cold. It was not suitable for human survival. Hence, in the vast far west, Sword King City was the only martial faction that could be considered part of the Central Plains. The others were small nations in the western region. As they went further west in the far west, the altitude became higher. Everyone could see the snow-covered Kunlun mountain range. The moment he saw the Kunlun mountain range, Lu Jiang he sighed but did not say anything. He was not a warrior who had been trained by the Kunlun devil cult since he was a child. He had joined the cult halfway. Even so, he had experienced the most glorious period of the Kunlun devil cult. As a result, he had dreamed for 500 years. The building had collapsed, the Kunlun devil cult was gone, and his old friends, enemies, people he disliked, and even the person he loved were gone. Even though Lu Jiang was not a sentimental person, he still had a lot of thoughts when he saw the Kunlun mountain range again. Previously, Lu Jiang was still a little dissatisfied with Dugu Weiwei. Although he did not resent him, he was also dissatisfied that Dugu Weiwei had locked him up for 500 years because of such a small matter. But now, he was even a little grateful to Dugu Weiwei. If Dugu Weiwei had not locked him up in the Blood Soul Bead, it might have been the turn of the other juniors of the Kunlun devil cult to mourn him. Mei Qinglian stood behind Chu Xiu and said softly, "Are we going to climb the Kunlun mountain now?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said with a cold look in his eyes, "Chu Wuji sent news that someone has taken the bait. Before climbing the Kunlun mountain, let's get rid of those guys first." You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.